Good evening. I'd like to reconvene City Council Successor Agency to the Westminster Redevelopment Agency meeting. Roll call, please. Oh, right now, 7:07 p.m. Wednesday, June 8, 2022. Roll call, please.
Thank you. Mayor Tom,
I'm here.
Vice Mayor Monzo,
Here.
Councilmember Doe,
I'm here.
Councilmember Ho, Councilmember Nguyen. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Next, salute to the flag will be Councilmember Nguyen. Invocation will be
Please stand.
our
and
City
face the
Attorney.
flag. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we thank you once again for the opportunity to come and do the city's business. We are grateful that you've given us this great nation and the freedoms that we enjoy. We ask that you would guide us and guide the council as they make decisions and consider things. We ask that you would give them wisdom to make wise decisions for the benefit of the people in this community. We commit this evening to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Thank you, Councilmember Nguyen and City Attorney. Next, we have City Attorney closed section report.
There's nothing to report from closed session.
Next, we have ex parte communication. None. Next, we have City Clerk report.
Thank you, Mayor. And we still have some openings on vacancies on our various commissions and committees. So we continue to invite the community to please look at those and apply on our city website. And also there will be one item that will be pulled out of order if the mayor and the council wish to do that. And that is agenda item 6.1. We do have the person available currently to assist with that presentation. And also I'd like to invite David Segura up to provide us with a COVID-19 update. He is our emergency services coordinator. Welcome.
Thank you, Lucy. Honorable Mayor, council members, city staff, and community members, good evening. So yes, I will provide you with the monthly COVID-19 update. Unfortunately, there has been an uptick here in our state and locally within our local region. The CDC's community level chart shows that Orange County has reached the medium level due to the numbers going up. There's approximately 19 counties in California at the medium community level, and 12 counties are at the high level. The counties in the high level in our state tend to be up in the northern section of the state. For the CDC, there's no recommended changes to the current mandates at the medium community level. To date, the mask guidelines, along with the isolation and quarantine guidelines, have not changed since April of this year. However, due to the community level being at medium, the CDC does recommend the following actions for anyone in the community. It's just a recommendation, but they would like for everyone to think about staying up on their COVID-19 vaccines. Get tested if you have symptoms. Wear a mask if you have either symptoms, a positive test, or exposure to someone with COVID-19. The CDC recommends that people wear a mask on public transportation. Also, they say that people may choose to wear a mask at any time as an additional precaution to protect themselves and others. They also say if you are at high risk for severe illness, consider wearing a mask indoors in public places and taking additional precautions. The CDC reports that BA.2.12.1 is a highly contagious subvariant of Omicron and has taken over the dominant strain circulating in the US. The subvariant is more infectious than the BA.2. The good news, though, is that the healthcare experts are reporting that the rate of increase in new cases may be slowing down. So hopefully we've seen the peak, but who knows? We'll see how that goes. But they're basing this on the 7-day daily average number of new cases was up about 10% in the past week per CDC data. The week before, the rise was 23%. Thankfully, again, the region is beginning to see a drop in positive cases, and hopefully it'll continue. Internally, we have experienced a rise of COVID cases within our city workforce as well. However, the uptick in COVID cases has had minimal impact on our city's daily operations. This is due in part, thankfully, to the actions of our employees and their supervisors for being very responsive in providing contact tracing information and rapidly testing to reduce potential exposure and spread to others. And fortunately, for the majority, whether it's our employees or in the community, it tends to be a milder case than it has in the past, and hopefully that will continue as well. At this point, that's the end of my report, and I'm available for questions.
I want to thank you so much for your report. Any comment or any question from Councilman? Okay, so thank you, regularly appreciate that. Next, we have a city manager report.
Yes, yes, thank you. So just a few things to report tonight. First and foremost, our Family Resource Center and their partners achieved a perfect score on their most recent data integrity check. This is really important. This is the tool used to measure compliance to the contract, and it recognizes the effectiveness of services being provided to our communities. So we just want to give a, congratulations to our Family Resource Center for achieving that. We have also a Family Resource Center summer kickoff event that's taking place on Friday, June 17th from 3:30 to 5. So stop on by, learn more, and enjoy a fun science show. The Senior Center is celebrating dads at their Father's Day breakfast on Monday, June 20th at 10 a.m. So again, if you're a senior in the community or know of someone who would like to get involved, contact our Community Services and Recreation Department for our Senior Center activities. Summer Parks and Playgrounds program begins the week of June 20th in several of our local parks. So again, just contact Community Services and Recreation for more information. And applications are available for the Youth Committee. This is a perfect opportunity for local students to get involved with the community and make a meaningful contribution. It is a one-year commitment, but we're proud to say that we have a lot of our Youth Committee members who have have started as early as 7th grade all the way through their graduation. So it's wonderful to see our youth involved. The Faith-Based Coalition, which is known as Love Westminster, is going to be hosting their first community pop-up event on June 11th from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. And this is going to take place at the 7-Eleven on 13541 Beach Boulevard. Basically what this pop-up event is it's to bring awareness to the community regarding homelessness while providing resources on how they can get involved in better serving our homeless community. So Love Westminster is going to be providing lunch, summer hygiene kits, clothing to members of the homeless community, and it's all courtesy of the coalition community partners. Our Westminster PD homeless outreach team will also be on hand to connect members of our homeless community with services and assistance. So if anyone's interested in that, that is again on June 11th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Of course, our city, we would like to welcome a few new members to our organization. First and foremost, I'd like to welcome Nolani Leal, who is the new administrative analyst for our water division. Jessica Martinez, who is our new part-time community outreach coordinator. Barbara Bispango, our management intern, and Eric Guzman, who is with our community preservation unit as part-time officer. We'd also like to congratulate a few internal promotions. Lucy Gravorgrian, who is now taking place as the police record supervisor, as well as Lynn Doan, who currently is our administrative assistant, supporting myself and the city council. And that is all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Really, thank you so much for your detailed report. Really appreciate that. Amazing. Next, we have one special presentation, proclamation observing June 19, 2022 in commemoration of June 10. Proclamation, June 10, June 19, 2022. Whereas our country is made up of people from every nation on earth who are declared equal not only in freedom, but also in justice, but which are essential for healthy human civilization. And whereas our nation was conceived on July 4, 1776, with the Declaration of Independence saying, we hold this truth to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And whereas at 2 p.m. on January 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, providing that all persons held as slaves shall be thenceforward and forever free. And whereas the Emancipation Proclamation make the permanent abolition of slavery a union-wide aim and provided the legal framework for the emancipation of nearly 4 million slaves. In hearing of the proclamation, many slaves escaped to Union line as army units moved south. And whereas on June 19, 1865, Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, and announced the end of both Civil War and slavery. The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal right and right of property between former master and slave. And the connection heretofore existing between them become that between employer and hired labor. And whereas Texas began celebrating June 10 in 1866 with community events such as parade, cookout, prayer, gatherings, musical performance, and historical cultural readings, and as free families immigrate from Texas to other parts of the US, they carry the June 10 celebration with them. And whereas Representative Al Edward put forward Bill HB 1016 in 1979, making Texas the first state to grant his emancipation celebration, whereas on January 1st, 1980, June 10 became an official Texas state holiday. And since then, 45 other states and the District of Columbia have also declared it an official holiday, whereas the city of Westminster celebrates freedom, equality, and justice in our community. Now, therefore, I, Top Mayor of the City of Westminster, on behalf of Vice Mayor Carlos Menzo, Council Member Ty Doe, Kimberly Ho, and Chief Charlie Nguyen, do hereby proclaim June 19, 2022 at June 10 in the City of Westminster in commemoration of the endings of slavery in the United States, and encourage all residents to learn and understand the significance of this celebration in African American history and in the heritage of our nation. So that is the only one item in our special presentation. So next we have oral communication.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a time of the meeting that members of the public may address the city council regarding any item on the agenda or not on the agenda, items that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Any person wishing to address the city council in person should complete a green speaker card and provide that to me. Anyone who wishing to speak via Zoom may raise their hand, or if they're calling in by pressing *9, and that will raise their hand. And when I call their names up, either in person or via Zoom, they have 5 minutes in which to speak.
All right, so I'd like to open oral communication.
Lúc này nếu có quý vị nào muốn phát biểu thì xin cho chúng tôi biết. Quý vị ở nhà nếu muốn theo dõi qua Zoom muốn phát biểu thì quý vị có thể chạm vào cái biểu tượng của lòng bàn tay để cho chúng tôi biết là quý vị muốn phát biểu. Xin cảm ơn.
Thank you. Mike Lasher, please step forward. Thank you.
Good evening, council members and mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I am here, my name is Mike Lasher with the California Pool and Spa Association, and I'm here to speak about the council's consideration of declaring a level 1 emergency drought situation for the city. We are supportive of any efforts for consumers to conserve water, and we've actually developed some resources that may be useful. We've got a standard of water conservation recognized by, excuse me, recognized by ANSI, and we're certainly willing to make that available. It has some good points about covering pools, et cetera, for consumers. We've also developed a website, and the URL for that is letspooltogether.com. And that's a website for consumers on facts about water usage by pools. Surprisingly enough, they're not the water wasters you think they are. But there are some additional steps that you can take, such as covering them, making sure that you don't have leaks, and et cetera. So that's a useful resource. Now, my understanding is there are no actions that may cause prohibition on filling of pools right now, but if we got to that point, or if we move up to levels, I do hope that you will take that to heart, to the economic hardship that would cause on those people who work in the pool and spa industry. That would put some people out of work. There's some real economic damages that could occur from that, to chase down what amounts to less than 1% of a city's water use, which is used by swimming pools. I'm going to leave my card with the staff here, and that's all the time I'm going to take this evening. Thank you for this chance to talk.
Next speaker is Roger Mindrum. Please step forward.
Evening, council. My name is Roger Mindrum, resident of Westminster. First of all, I'd like to say, Mayor Ty, you completely butchered the reading of that proclamation. It's Juneteenth, not June 10th. Most of those words in there, you kind of butchered there too. So you might want to consider reading something you have no clue about beforehand, before a meeting like this. You sound like a first grader reading that. I'd like to request that you pull on 3.5 on the agenda tonight. Recommendation is receive and file. I hope you discuss that. If I need to request that be pulled for discussion, please do. I'd like to present, hopefully, that presentation to the public, so we have some information on that. On 5.4, the playground contract, I'm all for making our parks better, but with the financial situation our city has, I saw the playground equipment at Margie Rice Park. It's pretty large, pretty overkill, if you ask me. Do we really need something that large in every park? You might want to consider the cost and scaling those down. Do we really need something that big? Like I said, I'm not for taking things away from the kids, but you might want to reconsider that for future projects if you have certain parks that are already committed. But please look into that and maybe reconsider that also. The other thing is one of the two meetings in May, you all decided regarding our interpreter. And it was decided that you'd only have the interpreter if there was a pre-ordered, pre-requested speaker that needed an interpreter. So if there isn't any that were pre-ordered, then why are we paying this man to be here? And how much are we paying this man to be here? And how long does he really need to be here for till midnight to the end of the meetings? Or you paying for it regardless? So like some answers on that, please. Thank you.
Next speaker is Terry Raines.
Good evening, Terry Raines, Westminster. I am still reeling over this council's behavior and comments during the last council meeting about the horrifying budget scenarios, only a 53-minute discussion, and the Quan Chi Monument, a 2-hour and 15-minute discussion. I witnessed so much disrespect and divisiveness, it made my blood boil. The all-out attack on an American Vietnam War veteran was the final straw. November better bring us an all-new city council or we are doomed. Council, please pull these consent calendar items. 3.3, the capital improvement and pavement management plan. 3.5, the crime stats at Shrine Group retail locations, and item 3.7, the review of the conflict of interest code. While we're reviewing the latter, please tighten the requirements for commission and committee members to complete the AB 1234 ethics training before they are sworn into their position, regardless of whether they are compensated or not. State law does not prevent the city from implementing stricter requirements. So please draft an ordinance that will, 1, require this training for all city positions, regardless if they are compensated or not. 2, remove within 1 year of taking office and replace it with prior to taking office. And 3, add enforcement and real consequences for non-compliance. If you need more information on crime stats and retail cannabis, please refer to the 2021 Orange County Grand Jury Report, which concluded that Santa Ana's legal cannabis dispensaries add significant revenue to the city with no reported increase in criminal activity. The Shrine Group is superior to most of the companies operating in Santa Ana. I hope presenting item 5.5 to this council is not a total waste of time. I see several of the creative ways to generate additional revenue I listed are ideas I have previously suggested to city staff. We finally have responsive and progressive leadership at City Hall, which is why we even have a strategic plan. If only we had a responsive and progressive city council as well. Hopefully the November election will help. While these ideas should be explored, they will probably bring in less than 1 million per year combined. Remember, our gap is 17 million per year. The Shrine Group's proposal could bring in up to 2 million per year and should also be seriously considered. Yet there are businesses operating in the city without a license, but you would get a lot bigger bang for your buck if you investigated cash only and cash discount businesses not paying their fair share of sales tax. But this council is too worried about upsetting their campaign donors and winning elections, so they will never order that investigation. Regarding item 5.6, ideas for improving traffic and parking conditions in Little Saigon, I'm not sure deleting 2 lanes from this major thoroughfare to provide for on-street parking is a good idea. Driving and walking along Bolsa is already dangerous. Having people stop to parallel park or pull out onto traffic onto Bolsa will likely increase vehicle accidents and pedestrian injuries in the area. Regarding item 5.7, specific plans, I agree with staff's recommendation for District 2, Westminster Boulevard, the eastern portion between Hoover and Golden West to be the first new specific plan to undertake. But the Westminster Mall specific plan needs to be completed before December. It has dragged out for far too long, so much so that one major property owner seems to be forging ahead with their own plan, regardless of what the city is doing. The city manager employment agreement item 5.8 is a vast improvement over previous CM agreements, much more professional and consistent with other agreements out there. The auto allowance, though, is very low compared to other CMs. Again, congratulations, Christine. The one thing this council did right was to hire you finally, get rid of interim off that sign. Regarding last night's election results, Newport Beach voters are smarter than Westminster voters. They defeated the measure to directly elect their mayor. Of course, their measure was worded clearly on the ballot, unlike ours, thanks to our city attorney's office. Mayor Ta, I hope you're proud of yourself. You and your sidekick, Councilman Nguyen, and the rest of your puppets spent countless hours and thousands of dollars spewing lies to defeat Measure C in the Vietnamese media, preying on the most vulnerable and uninformed voters, your own countrymen. But since you're advancing to the November 80-70 election, that means you are out of Westminster. Hallelujah. And if you lose to Tu Ha, and you will be out of politics altogether. Pure political serendipity. What is your Westminster legacy after 16 years? Fiscal mismanagement and bankruptcy, illegal parkland sale, defunding our police department, fake news, voter intimidation, manipulation, and suppression, campaign donor favors, racial attacks on non-Vietnamese residents. Yep, all of the above. So who will run for mayor in November? Ho, Nguyen, Do, Raines? Nguyen will, because he cannot win a seat in District 1. But will the same corrupt political machine, outlandish propaganda, and laundered money support Nguyen as much as they did Ta? Councilwoman Ho, how did that $314,000 you put into your own campaign and your fake vote center work out for you this time? As of tonight, you are tied for dead last in the 80-70 race among the Vietnamese American candidates. But hey, now that your higher office aspirations
Time's
have
up.
been dashed, there's absolutely no reason for you not to vote
The
to
next
put the
speaker
tax measure on the ballot.
is Ilya Seglin. Please step forward.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Trita and City Council members. My name is Ilya Tseglin. I am asking you, the elective by public, by elective official by public, to save my innocent son, Nate Tseglin, and help me reunite him with my innocent family, descendant of Holocaust survivors. I already submitted my request for two mayor and chief of police. I have no inclination to harm anyone, people, but whatever happened with my son, his health alive, I'm going to keep the official liable. It means liable in your career, an amount of money that can be equable for kidnapping, isolation, torturing, human and drug trafficking, do little or nothing to prevent slavery of innocent public, money laundering business. I have some, I see 2 minutes. I will try for these 2 minutes, just explain whatever this matter about. It's not only my family matter, it's matter for everyone living in the America. I mean, I don't want to say common, but I say in Orange County and in this particular Westminster city, because this in Westminster city, my son was kidnapped from my home, not in Westminster, but in this city, they keeping my son in isolation, unlicensed group home that using drugs for profiteering and making these drugs addictive to the clients in order to make money, public money, laundering business that involve owner of this group home, unlicensed group home, has a criminal record. That's why he cannot be licensed for the group home. However, I want to explain this connection between how it can happen that in free America, that we respect Constitution, rules of law, they can keep this illegal mafia type business because they make a lot of money on kidnapping people and giving them drugs and taking government money, taxpayer money. And this money, I don't know in details how, but they share with judges, they share with law enforcement, they share with protective social services, public defender. So it's make like a very good protective business that nobody from the public cannot afford to win in the court, even when people are not guilty, they innocent. They steal their children. They steal vulnerable people because of illegal. I'm sorry.
Time is up.
Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Tony Bowie. Please come forward.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Today is the day after the election days, the determination day of all the Westminster residents. They cast their vote to protect their right to vote for the mayor. The position is mayor of the city. And I congratulate on the people that have make the wise decision. And then it helped you, like Mendez, like Ho, or like Do, Do. You have a chance to go and run for the mayor rather than be rotational mayor. Shame on that position, right? And congratulations to Council Member Ho. She will not have to go to Sacramento to clean up Sacramento because she will be here, try to clean up the mess that we made here in the past. Why? Because in the past couple months, all of our city has been quarreling a lot of issues that all three of you try to bring up and make our city not growing and impeding the growth of the city. So you make our city in bad budget. You know how much it costs to bring up the Measure C? I can ask the city manager, maybe more than $200,000 to put it on. That means you go backward. A long time ago, 20, 30 years ago, they already decided to have a mayor to be elected by all the city residents. Now you go backward and you cost the city a lot of money and also a lot of effort of the people to go out to cast their vote to protect our city integrity. So now in the future, all of you and will have the chance to run for the position of the mayor. Like this lady, she's been here many times. She can have the chance to run mayor, right? That is equal opportunities. And you have to exercise that equal opportunities and equal rights for every people to run the public position and to show that you are capable to hold that position and you are willing to sacrifice your time, your money, and your resource to serve for the people of the residents of the city, rather than smearing dirt to all of other people to obtain your ego. Your ego, that's really bad. So I hope that Ms. Ho or Ms. Title in the future go ahead and fight for city mayor rather than go for rotational mayor. That's not good because you are good. You should show to the people that you are good to run for it. So today I come here to congratulate the people of City of Westminster has made the wise decision to stop Measure C and to allow all people have the chance to vote for the representative, a mayor representing the whole city. And if he or she did not work good, then you can elect another person in the next term. So from now on, I hope that you all together, working together for the growth of the city rather than fighting with each other. It's a childish act, and you are not worth to sit there if you keep doing childish actions. This is my message to, especially to the three gangs, Mr. Menzo, Miss Ho, or Mr. Doe, because I follow the truth. I know all of you take part in making the city, impeding the growth of the city. Thank you.
Is there anyone else here wishing to come forward to speak? There are none. If anyone, there is no one on Zoom wishing to speak either, so that concludes oral communications. Mayor.
All right, thank you so much. Next, we have consent calendar. All matter listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and may be approved by a single motion followed by roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of this item unless member of the city council or staff request that specific items be removed from the consent calendar for separate action or discussion.
Sorry, Mayor. So before we move on to consent calendar, we actually had a request to move up item 6.1, which was the water shortage resolution. So we actually just need a vote on that.
Okay,
Yeah, we should have done it earlier, but.
all right, so may I have a motion to move item 6.1?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second to move 6.1 forward.
Thank you, Mayor. And that motion was made by Councilmember Doe, seconded by Councilmember Nguyen to move item 6.1 out of order and forward. Councilmember Doe,
Yes.
Councilmember Ho. Thank you. Councilmember Nguyen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Monzo,
Yes.
Mayor Ta.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, item 6.1, adoption of a resolution declaring a level 1 water supply shortage.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayors, member of the council. I would like to thank you for moving the item up. We have our water superintendent, Scott Mueller, here to present the item. The reason we're asking to move it up because he's been here since 4 a.m. this morning to involve with the 405 water construction. So Scott.
Mayor Ta, members of the council, city attorney, city manager. Thanks for moving that item up for me. It's really appreciated. So I'm sure you've heard in the news and you've heard quite a bit over the last several months about the conditions of the water situation in the state of California. On March 28, 2022, Governor Newsom Gavin signed Executive Order N-7-22, which was the final order in a series of about 5, proclaiming a state of emergency for the water supply in the state of California. As part of that, as it goes on through the executive order, there was some voluntary conservation measures that were asked for. But in this executive order, they are asking for a 20% reduction over last year's numbers. And when you read the executive order, it states in there that that would be a level 2. Some clarification on that is the state of California has their own levels of conservation that don't necessarily line up with each individual water purveyor. Which is the case for us. A level 2 for the state of California is a 20% reduction. A level 1 shortage contingency plan for the city of Westminster is 20%. So they do in fact line up. Hopefully that will clear up any misunderstandings with that. City of Westminster has been at the forefront. In 2017, you guys passed an ordinance that I believe is one of the most important ones in the state of California. We definitely hold our community to a higher standard. And as I've stated many times before, our community always rises to the occasion. To date, we've saved 4.5 billion gallons of water since 2015. That is an entire year's worth of water for the city of Westminster. We continue to fight that fight. Because of that ordinance, the impact to us will be a little bit less, and that's kind of the reward for our citizens. So essentially, right now, under current standards, they're allowed to water 5 days a week in the summertime and 3 days a week in the wintertime. A level 1 will reduce that to 4 days in the summertime and 2 days in the wintertime. We believe that with some other measures and some reminders to our community will easily achieve that 20%. We always have the option, if we're not getting the response, to go to a higher level and to increase what we're doing. We are going to be increasing our presence in the community. This is not to tattletale or bust anybody. We've always taken a positive, soft approach to this, and it's more about educating people and giving them the resources and tools needed to achieve what we're looking for. We do perform water audits on homes. We do also set irrigation timers. That's a service we provide for free. And it's welcome to anybody that wants to call in. We'll have professionals come out and give you an idea of where you can save. Make sure your clocks are set up right so that we're following all the rules and we're doing the best we can with the water that we have. Another dry year will definitely change this. So we're hoping that we get a good response from our community. We save the water that's needed and hopefully we get a little more rain. With that, that pretty much covers it. If there's any questions for me or about the resolution.
Oh, I want to thank our water superintendent for your excellent presentation, and I really appreciate all the hard work from our staff in the water division for years. I think that we sent out I believe mailer or something, and we email or we announce to the public that we need to save water, and that's the reason why that a couple of years ago that we was awarded by Wildland Foundation for I think that for the best city in saving water. I think this year is at the city of Laguna Beach. They received an award. Am I correct? In a few other cities. So I think that summer is coming, and I think that saving water is a need for the community, and I really appreciate that everything you do and all of your staff. Yeah, so really appreciate that. So I hope that the member from the community understand the importance of saving water. I think that for the future generation, and that's also for our community. Really appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I want to add to that too. I want to thank you for taking the effort to make people awareness of water conservation. I just came back from the Northern California during the Memorial Weekend. I was there, and I saw that they have it on most of the billboard, making people aware of their drought that may be coming up. And so that's where I learned a lot from promoting or getting people to know about this. I wonder, I know that the city of Westminster, you pioneer this and you want to make sure that you move ahead, but from the county standpoint, do you hear anything about it, or did they do anything about it to promote awareness of water conservation?
Let me make sure I understand your question. So you're asking what we're
From
doing
the county standpoint, from the county. Is there any action from the county?
Collaboratively, we are part of a 23-member agency, which is most of the water purveyors in Orange County, mostly Northern Orange County. We work together diligently with Municipal Water District of Orange County, as well as the Orange County Water District, so that we have a unified message that goes out in several different platforms. And if I might add, We will be putting the new regulations, the level 1, if it passes tonight. That will be in every water bill. We'll go on social media with that. We're going to post it in the newspapers. And then we will also be handing them out as we're going around canvassing and trying to catch all the leaks that we can and remind people of what it is we need to do. Like I said, everybody in Westminster does an amazing job. They've just been outstanding, and I have no reason to believe that we're not going to meet the goals and do this thing for the community. So, but yeah, so not a ton of county involvement. They kind of have their own piece of it, but they're not a member agency. It's a little different animal, but they're obviously very supportive of the whole idea.
I got a question. When are we going to be, you just mentioned, I think you mentioned it, but I might have missed it. Are we going to be inspecting property, city property for faulty sprinklers not operating correctly? Are we going to do an inspection of all our parks or wherever?
So
our city?
my staff works really close with the Parks Department, and the individuals go out together to monitor each of the stations for each of the parks and any greenbelt areas that have an irrigation. They do a great job of collaborating together and making sure that all the requirements are met and leaks are found. You know, it takes the entire public works. It's not always easy to see an obvious problem, but we all work really hard to support each other. So those that are in charge of the irrigation, they're amazing people. They work really hard, and we're right there with them to make sure. He checks in with me about once a week just to make sure nothing's changed. So I'm a strong believer in that you lead by example. So I want us to be the leaders in doing this, and then gain the support of the community to do that.
Okay. The reason I ask is on my drive, I've noticed that on the Hoover bike trail, there's some sprinklers that, I don't know if it's the sprinkler that's not operating correctly or just the way the flow is, it always flows into the water just flows right into the street. So that's why I ask if we're going to do an inspection of all our,
yes,
the way they're operating.
Those actually happen quite often. I'll have to check the schedule to see when Hoover's back on again, but now that you mention it, we'll make sure we take a good look at it here in the next week or two.
All right, thank you. And also on your, I hear where it says, talks about penalties and violations, the 3 or 4 bullet points, are they in line with other cities as far as the quantities, the fines?
Yes, in fact, they are, and they were recommended by the state of California.
Okay. And in the past, have you ever, we had some in the past, have you ever installed any flow restrictors before?
We have not had to install any flow restrictors. We have typically, just through hard work, gotten compliance. I will say we have issued a couple of fines. But when you consider the severity of the drought of 2014-15, there was maybe 3.
Okay.
And I do everything I can, because believe me, by the time we get to a $50 fine, I've spent way more than that trying to get it done. So there's not a profit thing here. It's just to get people to understand the seriousness of what we're doing. It usually doesn't take much.
Yeah, because I heard in the news yesterday or this morning about some city, I forgot what city it was, that they had installed over 1,000 flow restrictors so far. So
our community has just been very receptive, always has been, and that's one of the things I'm most proud of is we really do make a team effort on this, and it's always worked out for us. And I've been doing this for a minute, and I know we can do it. We've done it time and time again.
And on your outreach for educating the community, when you mentioned about helping residents with their irrigation timers, so you'll be, because we do have a large senior citizen population here in our city, and those are the kind of folks that they would need that help.
You would be surprised. We do quite a few of them. All they have to do is call down to the public works yard and somebody within the next couple of days will go out there and make sure everything is set up for them. They're great at it. But yeah, we've been doing that for many years now, and it's just a really big success. And it's really nice that it's free to people. You know, the interest is in just everybody banding together and doing the best we can with their irrigation is our real issue. You know, when it comes to rain, people don't think to turn the irrigation off. So, you know, it's raining and they're watering, or it just rained and a day later they're watering. And they just don't connect the dots all the time. So we go out and remind them. But that's been the biggest help. 60% of all water consumption by a resident is outdoors, most of that being irrigation. So it's a big piece of it. So that's really where my focus is. And that seems to be where we get the most traction. Low flow toilets and low flow faucets have been around for a really long time. So we're not seeing a lot of traction there. You know, you can't, in fact, in California, you cannot buy a high volume faucet or toilet. So just over time, those things attrit, as well as we had quite a few events where there was rebates for them, and there still are rebates. So if anybody wants any kind of a rebate, either on irrigation, toilets, shower heads, faucets, if they go to our website, it will direct them to bewaterwise.com. And there's a whole list of things, washers and washers, dishwashers. You can get rebates on all of those things. So it's a very unified effort.
Perfect. Thank you so much for all the great info you're supplying us, and also going to help supply our community with that important information. So thank you.
Yes, I have another question. So basically, the resolution, if the council approve by tonight, so the resolution going to be effective right away, and how long it would last?
No, this is part of the state's process. It's the first time they've done this, but a gray area. But the intent is for July 1, have all this in play. But they have asked us to bring this to our councils the first part of June, and our first meeting in June at the latest. And then the State Water Resources Control Board has our plan, and they will reach back to us. So we're just right on time. But, you know, we're going to get started. We're getting the printing and stuff done. The biggest thing is we don't want them to change the rules after we've printed everything. So we kind of try to take it a little bit deeper, because July 1 is really the kickoff for the state. So we hold off until we know we have all the pieces we need, so that we have to reprint it. Printing and mailing is really expensive. So we try to stay away from that as much as we can.
So I'd like to go ahead and move to adopt this resolution as recommended.
Second.
All right, thank you so much. So we have the motion from Councilman Nguyen and second by Vice Mayor Mendez. Roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Mayor. And that is to approve a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Westminster declaring a level 1 water supply shortage pursuant to ordinance number 2536. That motion was made by Councilmember Nguyen, seconded by Vice Mayor Monzo. Councilmember Doe?
Yes.
Councilmember Ho?
Yes.
Councilmember Nguyen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Monzo?
Yes.
Mayor Ta?
Yes.
Motion carries.
So now we go back to the consent calendar. So may I have a motion?
Mayor, I'd like to pull item 3.5.
What? So pull 3.5? Okay.
Yes.
Staff would like to pull 3.4.
Okay. May I have a motion to move the slate?
Motion to move to approve the
Second.
consent calendar except for item 3.5.
Okay, so we have the motion from Councilmember Nguyen, and who second the motion? I forgot.
I did.
Okay, so Vice Mayor second the motion, but item 3.4 and 3.5, am I correct? All right.
Thank you. And that was to approve the consent calendar as presented in its entirety with exception of item 3.4 and 3.5. Councilmember Doe?
Yes.
Councilmember Ho? Councilmember Nguyen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor
Yes.
Mayor Ta?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Right, item 3.4, award contract to Alta Planning and Design Incorporation for the rent-funded citywide safe route to school plan. Please.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adolfo Zeta, Interim Assistant City Manager for the City of Westminster. I am very excited to present an update on the Westminster Safe Routes to School Plan, which is being presented to you for an award for a consultant. We get started with the PowerPoint. So good things have arrived after hard work and diligent effort. To put things in perspective, my son was in preschool the first time I applied for this grant, and today he finished his 9th grade year of high school, right? So it takes time to build these programs, and we have to be persistent. What obtaining this grant proves to the community is that the mayor and council prioritizes the safety of residents and the safety of children. All right, so I'll provide a little bit more information on Westminster Safe Routes to School. Safe routes to school in the city of Westminster is needed due to Westminster's high traffic volumes, speeds, and health inequities that exist in certain segments of our community. The citywide Safe Routes to School plan, and I stress the word citywide, will provide clear implementable recommendations to create safer, more comfortable walking and biking options for Westminster school residents, their families, and students. This is a grant that we received from Caltrans. It is a $545,000 grant. The final report will be brought back to council March of 2020, but I do expect all of you, as well as planning commissioners and traffic commissioners and parks and rec commissioners, to take part in the outreach efforts that I'll be going over in a little bit. Next slide. So this is the project team. Tonight, your staff is asking that you approve a contract to Alta. Alta is the prime consultant on this project. They've assembled a team of industry experts, and Fair and Peers and Mark Thomas as their subs. I will be the program manager for the project moving forward. Day-to-day will be Bill Pham, our associate engineer, Veronica Johnson, our management analyst. Vanessa Johnson, as our community services director, will also play a role, as will our police department traffic bureau. So we'll be working very closely with Commander McCormick and Sergeant Anil Adam on this. As you can see, the team here, it's a very specialized field. We have engineers and planners that have been brought on board with this team. This is what they do. This is only what they do at the national level, at the state level, at the regional level. So we're very excited about this team. So Westminster Safe Routes to School Plan really consists of 4 parts. And I have a few more slides remaining, very colorful slides. The first is we're building off existing work and relationships. Again, I mentioned how long it's taken us to get here. I arrived in 2005, and we started making movement in building programs instead of building projects. So when you build programs and you go and compete for grant funds, you're much more likely to obtain the grant funds because you have shown the grant funder that you're committed to delivering safety, quality, and consistent projects. So you're really building on something much more than just an individual pet project per se, right? We're also focusing on engaging school communities. That's the biggest role of this. Our city manager actually worked on the engagement portion of a Safe Routes to School effort when she was in a previous agency. So she understands the significance and the value that this brings to the community. Number 3, we're going to be identifying community-driven data. So again, it goes back to making sound decisions based on data, not on one person complaining, not on a pet project, but rather looking at the data and making decisions throughout the city that make sense for the entire community. And another big part of this is part 4, which is creating grant-ready deliverables. When there's a grant call in the future after this project is completed, we will have grant-ready applications that look colorful, that have outreach, that have all the nice things that are needed for us to obtain citywide grant funds and not necessarily just project-specific grant funds moving forward. So again, this is a grant-funded effort, and it's going to lead towards a lot of outreach, ultimately leading for additional grant funds that comes in. So again, we're building off existing work relationships. Again, it's a Caltrans grant. We've done good work with SCAG. Mayor Ty, I look at you because you were a part of SCAG back in those days. We work with the police department. Here on the bottom right, you see our traffic investigator out assessing the community on a regular basis. On the next slide here, we see engaging school communities. The bottom right, you'll see that the community of El Monte, for example, has a Vietnamese population and as well as a Latino population, and all of the outreach effort will be in person. I purposely asked Caltrans to extend the start of this study because of the COVID situation. I wanted us to benefit from face-to-face interaction that all of us were craving. So while there will be an effort for some of the outreach to be conducted electronically or maybe through Zoom, our big effort is to get in front of the community and present the findings and have engagement opportunities. We are very good at what we do. This is me in orange here in the middle picture. That's when we're meeting with state delegate for grant funding on Hoover. Our consultants there on the right, depending on the school, I mean, they'll come out dressed in a traffic cone. They'll come out and do charrettes at the school. The goal is to get all the PTA parents excited and to get the community members to come out and tell us about what their needs are in each specific community. Identifying community-driven talent is community-driven data is very, very important. We're going to have some very difficult conversations that have to be had. And we do this because we believe in full transparency. And it's not until problems are clearly defined that we can actually put forth solutions. The next, we're going to be pulling data very similar to this. I don't expect you to be able to really see it from this perspective, but on the left, you have collision hotspots in the city. Again, data-driven, where are the collisions taking place? On the right there, you have pedestrian and bicycle collision hotspots. How close are they to a school? What are the primary collision factors? All of these trends will be studied as part of this project. And this is stuff that makes people uncomfortable, but it's stuff that needs to be discussed because good solutions come from it. We'll dig deeper into collision analysis. This is some initial analysis that we pulled as an agency. All of this data comes directly from our police department. We walk over, they open the door, they allow us to retrieve all the data that we need. It's a wonderful working relationship we have with our traffic bureau. As you can see here to the right on the circle, Little Saigon has a disproportionately more pedestrian collisions than the west side of town. We're going to find out why. We're going to find out of those pedestrian fatalities or collisions. We're going to find out the age groups. We're going to find out the locations. And we're going to really dig down and figure out how we can provide outreach and programmatic solutions to address these issues. Finally, Safe Rest of School plans, we're going to create grant-ready deliverables. So our team of experts are going to take all the input, all the analysis, work with city staff to develop concepts, not just one concept, but options, alternatives, so that when there is a grant proposal, we can go ahead and submit and compete for funding. Here you have just a schematic of what could be provided on the right, on the top right, layout of the roadways. On the bottom left, you see a concept near a high school that can function as a grant. Similarly, on the next slide, you see more than one way to handle a problem, right? So we're looking at all of these options. Finally, as part of this last effort, we're also going to be focusing specifically on crossing guard analysis and training. We don't have a policy for placing crossing guards. We don't have a policy for cost sharing. We're bringing in these outside experts. They're going to let us know what they've seen in other parts of the country, what they've seen in Southern California. We'll be able to provide you with informed opinions and options for how we should handle our crossing guards in the city. Because I know this is very important to the community. It's something that myself, Vanessa Johnson, who oversees the crossing guard program, are very excited about. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your patience, and I'm available for questions.
Well, thanks, Mr. Ortega, for your excellent presentation and your leadership. I know that you've done a lot of work in communicate with members from the community, so I really appreciate that. And in the past, I think we did a lot of outreach program. I think that's really helpful. So this is the funding from the state. That's amazing. So how long that we have that, and when did we apply for it?
So we applied during COVID time, right? So over the last couple of years, it takes the state. It's a statewide competitive application. This is a citywide award. No city around us has ever gotten a citywide
Wow.
award. Our neighboring cities, they do good work as well. They're very good at what they do as well. They're kind of piecing it together a little bit at a time. Because of the programs that we built in the community, the state trusted us with a big award to deliver it all in one shot, which is very exciting. To answer your question specifically, we applied, we received the grant in January of 2022. Paperwork has to take place, so we're ready tonight if the council agrees to award the job to the consultant. The final report will be delivered in March of 2024, and that is a not very flexible timeline. So we are committed to doing that per Caltrans requirements.
Yeah, I think this is a really good item. So if we don't have any other concerns or question, I'd like to move.
I have a question, couple of questions.
Please.
Mayor. I know you had a quick slide towards the end there about some ideas. Can you talk about a little bit more about what type of improvements that would come about of this report?
Oh, yes, thank you. If you could, we'll have Tanya go back to slide 11, I think it is. Slide 12. So there's been a lot of things in the city over the last 60 years that have been installed because somebody asked for it, right? Somebody asked the right person, it got installed. And the standards change, the community's needs change, but a lot of the times what is out there in the city stayed simply because it's been there forever, right? So we're taking a very different approach to the way that we view. Anytime we go out to a location, we're looking at it from the ground up. Why is it here? Does it still need to be here? Those conversations are very difficult to have at the staff level when you're trying to interact with 100,000 residents. So this effort will bring pods together at each school where we'll be focusing on not just school-related infrastructure, mainly school-related infrastructure, but also other improvements. We'll look at the existing conditions. It could be something as basic as removing a crosswalk, installing a new signal, moving that crosswalk to another location. We're going to work very closely with the school district because one of the things that I've noticed is we'll do a good job to build things up to the city right of way, but then when you're on school property, sometimes the facilities aren't what they should be. So we'll be engaging with the school district to make sure that they come to the table with an understanding that it is a partnership. This grant was supported by all the school districts in the city. They are going to be stakeholders in this. So I hope I answered your question. Some low level, some high level investments.
Would this change like the lanes of certain streets if it's a busy street, or I mean, those are the kind of questions I'm asking. What kind of examples of improvements?
Yeah, so like at the high school, like let's think about this openly. In front of the high school, it's a very wide street. We sometimes have a problem with kids crossing the street. We could potentially obtain grant funding to build a nice median in front of the high school with a nice fence that would kind of force people to the nearest intersection. Or perhaps create a mid-block crossing between the two main signals so that when school hours are happening, there's a pedestrian signal that could flash, that could provide coverage. On Humboldt, we have a flashing beacon that the community has been asking for an upgrade. It's difficult for me to get grant funding, and it's difficult for the council to set aside $400,000 for a new signal. This project will identify those high-level needs so that we can upgrade flashing beacons to traffic signals, modernize essentially our infrastructure.
And then on the issue with the crossing guards, you know, that's pretty something that I don't know. I think it should be addressed more immediate. Is that something that can come about faster than waiting till the March of 24?
Absolutely. One of the things that really sold me, and I should say us, right? Because it was a team effort, the selection, myself, Vanessa Johnson, Veronica Johnson, Bill Pham, we sat on the committee. One of the things that really impressed us about the team is that they identified if there is a moment in time between now and the delivery that we can stop, provide a report that the council might need to consider ahead of the ultimate delivery, help us with if there's enough information, say halfway through the project to go for a grant instead of waiting to the very end, they will definitely put a pause on it and find a way to work with us on that. So moving the crossing guard discussion to the first action is something that's very logical and something we could definitely do.
Yeah, but I just kind of saw that March of 24. To me, in my mind, it was like, man, that's a long time.
Long time. It's a lot of schools in the city.
Yeah, and then so that brings us to March of 24. But then how far after that would, applying for a grant and then trying to get awarded. And I mean, it's just, to me, just a long time.
Well, like I said, this team is proved to us during the presentation. They showed us examples of working for other cities where after being 25% in, they had enough information to help us apply for a grant. They would be able to do that and still move the project forward. So we're definitely not going to be not moving on grants. We're going to continuously be moving on grants. But this project will really set us up for some big awards down the line.
Beautiful. Thank you. I'll second it. I think
One
there was a
quick
motion.
comment. I remember we talked about this project like back in 2020 when we considered the parking meter in Little Saigon, and you probably brought it up. So I'm just happy to see it's become fruition. So thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
All right, so we have the motion and a second, am I correct?
Yep.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve this item.
Thank you.
Roll
The
call,
motion.
please.
Thank you, Mayor. The motion was made by Mayor Ta, seconded by Vice Mayor Monzo, and that would be to approve the award of contract to Alto Planning and Design, Inc. for the citywide Safe Routes to School plan in the amount of $468,860, and to also authorize the interim city manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the city. Councilmember Doe?
Yes.
Councilmember Ho?
Yes.
Councilmember Nguyen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Monzo?
Yes.
Mayor Ta?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next item, 3.5, follow-up report regarding RAM statistic related to retail location owned by Shrine Group Incorporation.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Police staff conducted research on the Shrine Group. Unfortunately, out of the 8 locations we asked to get data from, only 2 got back to us. That's not unusual. Right now, as you know, there's a lot of shortages in law enforcement and many requests, especially like Northern California and things that aren't close to us, sometimes go ignored or don't get answered for some time. So 2 out of the 8 got back to us. Out of those 2, there was no significant increase or decrease in crime. Basically was status quo. So in a nutshell, there's no downside crime-wise or calls for service-wise to having a Shrine Group cannabis business in our jurisdiction. Although we only received information back on 2 of the companies, I do want to put out there that San Francisco did do a study, didn't focus necessarily on the Shrine Group, but in general, looked at cannabis businesses. And they concluded, and it's a very lengthy study, that crime in and around cannabis locations was similar to that of other commercial business. And that was a 2019 compared to 2018 study they conducted. So again, that's not necessarily on the Shrine Group. It was on all the cannabis businesses up there. But specifically, the data we got on the Shrine Group is there was no change in crime in and around that business or their businesses.
Mayor and Council, I just wanted to let you know that since this was an item that was a follow-up regarding the Shrine Group, we do have Talk Sato who is here from the Shrine Group. Any questions directly that you may have?
All right, so do we have any concerns or?
Yeah, I have a couple
Please.
of
I do have
questions.
the follow-up questions.
Um,
I know,
Go ahead.
oh, okay.
That's fine.
I know it's a slow process moving, getting back to us. But tonight, if we approve pre-CM file for the 2 that we get back, well, do you plan to bring back do you have any intention to bring back the other 6, or how do you inform the council about it?
That's something I could generally just send out an items of interest on. It has been some time, so I would suspect we may not hear back on the other businesses.
Oh, you may not hear back from them.
At all. And we might hear back from a few, but that is something if the council wishes, I can send a group email or I can bring it back in the form of.
May I suggest that, through the interested items, we can, you can send it to the council through that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I think I felt that I didn't really catch the question. So you were asking if you heard back from any other agencies?
If we do receive back from the other agencies, then, they have a way to inform us through interested item. instead of bringing
Yes,
back
good.
here
That-
to. for
That would be
approval.
good, for sure. That was one of my questions, if you had heard back from any, but I guess the answer is no. Have you looked, I mean, have you looked at any of the other cities that have permitted cannabis use in their cities, for any reports from them? I know you mentioned San Francisco, but any other around closer to other neighboring cities like Santa Ana, for example? Have you looked into like their reports, their crime reports? Did you get a chance to do that?
Preliminarily, I have. It was some time ago. I do recall that it was similar, concluded similar information where it didn't increase crime.
And then I don't know if this is a question for you, on those, the safety requirements at those facilities. So I don't know if that's, you can answer the question, or maybe, I forgot what your name, Suck, yeah. If that, does the city impose safety requirements on your facilities?
Depending on the city, but for the most part, on a general basis, the state has minimum requirements such as 24-hour videos, videos that are accessible by the police for up to 90 days, at least one security guard. Cities vary on whether they require those security guards to be armed or not. But as I mentioned in our last presentation, we go above and beyond all of those requirements and have at least 2 security guards on site during operational hours, and also have a security guard overnight. And we also have, I think a lot of it, the state, like as I mentioned, the state has minimum requirements, and the cities tend to go a little bit in excess of those minimum requirements. But for the most, it tends to be touch on the number of cameras, and also the access with the police department, communication with the police department, also anti-loitering measures, and those types of things. But for the most part, as you mentioned, the city and states do have minimum requirements for security measures.
Okay, thank you. I guess the other one would be, is I've seen reports from other cities as far as unlicensed retailers, and a downturn as far as reduction in them out there when a licensed business is in town. Have you, or maybe the chief, I guess that would be a code enforcement issue if there's been a reduction in illegal facilities and where cannabis retail is allowed?
So there's been a few studies in Colorado. Unfortunately, in California, there hasn't been any wide studies, but studies have shown that once a city does permit legal cannabis dispensaries, the illegal ones tend to go out of business for the most part, because all things being equal, if a customer can go to a licensed dispensary within distance and be guaranteed products that have been tested and that don't have the types of pesticides and other dangerous materials that some of these unlicensed dispensaries have. And also, just as the kind of the topic we're mentioning as far as security, a lot of these unlicensed dispensaries don't have security guards at all, don't have cameras at all. And from what the LAPD, and even if you look at the LA Times and all the different types of reports you see, the instance of robberies and violence and crime at unlicensed dispensaries is really the majority of the instances of crime, at least in California, because those are the types of businesses that get targeted because they don't have the minimum security requirements, number one. Number two, oftentimes criminals see those types of establishments as establishments that are less likely to call the police if something happens. And so for those two big reasons, those are the types of establishments, the unlicensed ones, that for the most part get targeted.
Thank you very much for that info. So the bottom line, it seems like there's the notion from the report that cannabis operators attract more crime is just a a stereotype, I would imagine. Yeah. All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Any other questions from council? No,
If not, then I move to receive and file.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And the motion was made by Councilmember Nguyen, seconded by Vice Mayor Monzo, and that is to receive and file the report. Councilmember Doe?
Before I vote, just quickly, this is the only directive that we have the city staff to conduct in regard to the cannabis, right? I mean, it's been like a month, right? Since I don't remember exactly what we asked city staff to do.
Yeah, so so the last time that we had this discussion about cannabis, we were directed to come back with some information, more research, understandably, want to learn more about this type of operation in the city. So so at this juncture, we were bringing back just the crime statistics. Our staff has been working diligently to reaching out to the other cities within Orange County. So we actually expect the first meeting of July that we will have a more comprehensive report in terms of what other cities are doing with regulations, how they are regulating this type of a business, what their zoning entails, how many they allow, in that respect. So so that will be coming. So there's definitely more information that we will be providing to you to continue this conversation if it's something that this council is interested in pursuing.
Okay. If I not mistaken, Councilman Nguyen was asking the chief to bring back the other 6 contact law enforcement agency requests that you made to the council. If once you receive it, is that correct?
That is correct. Once and if we receive.
Okay. Could we have someone from our PD you can call those agency and just have a conversation with whoever in charge of that area, maybe, Liza, whoever, just have a kind of feel of what's going on in that area, so maybe we can have a better picture than just an email request. Is that okay, Chief?
We could, but then it would be just word to word.
Right.
Told us, but as long as the council is okay with that, yes, we can.
Okay, just a sense of, feel how those establishments impact the city. So thank you. I appreciate it. Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Ho? Thank you. Councilmember Nguyen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Monzo?
Yes.
And Mayor Ta is not currently available. Motion carries 4-0.
Right. Thank you.
Vice Mayor, if I may, so we are having technical difficulties with our speakers right now. And so staff is requesting if we can take a 10-minute break to reset the system. I know some of us are having a hard time hearing.
Okay. Take a motion to have a 10-minute recess.
Second.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
The council is in recess.
Right, so I'd like to reconvene the city council meeting. So for the next item, we have regular business, item 5.1, notice of completion for the work performed by Case Construction Incorporation for the Mendez Tribute Monument Park project located at 7371 Westminster Boulevard. You may have staff report. Thank you.
Good evening again. This is the notice of completion for the Mendez Tribute Monument Park right at the corner of Westminster and Olive. So in August 2020, we awarded a contract to Casa Constructions, and it's been taking that long because they have to deal with all of the changes, out in the field with the audits, with the lighting, with the electrical. So they completed the project, and we bring to the council tonight. This is the majority of the construction. They're still missing the sculpture from the Mendez family, and I think the audit is working on that. So I think Adolfo can shed light on when we can have those delivered, because I think he worked directly with the artists on that project. If you have any questions.
Right.
So with this amount, if we authorize the additional amount of $48,816, it's not the end of the building yet, right?
I think the cost for the artist and the sculpture has been paid already. So should be the end of the project.
The end of the process, okay. With that, I move to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. So we have the motion, made by Councilmember Nguyen, second by Vice Mayor Mendez to approve this item.
Thank you. And that is to authorize an additional amount of $48,816 from account.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
From account number 76502-761908 for all change orders related to the project construction, and to accept the subject project and authorize the interim city clerk to file a notice of completion with the county clerk recorder's office. Councilmember Doe?
Yes.
Councilmember Ho?
Yes.
Councilmember Nguyen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Monzo?
Yes.
Mayor Ta?
Yes,
Motion carries 5-0.
thank you. Next item 5.2, leasing of the city vehicle to enterprise, please. Leasing.
I have a few questions. Are we going to have a staff report? Chief?
So yeah, we do have our fleet superintendent, Scott Masseron, in the audience today, and he can do the little presentation to the council.
All right.
Scott, can you come up?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. Over the last 10 years, the city has leased 87 vehicles, ranging from light trucks to SUVs to hybrid patrol cars and electric vehicles. The lease program has allowed the city to upgrade a majority of our vehicles, as well as improve fuel mileage, safety features, and lower monthly operating costs. This lease agreement works differently from a consumer lease. After the vehicle's term has ran out, the vehicle is sold, and any equity gained is applied to the program. The equity can be applied to lease vehicles to lower overall cost. This lease agreement is supported by a Sourcewell competitive price contract. Sourcewell allows the city to piggyback on vendor awarded contracts. That's the end of my presentation. If you guys have any questions.
Can you, I know you spoke about this, about electric vehicles and phasing them in. Have you done a study or research as far as how you can phase them in? I mean, because I'm assuming, looking at our last, when we approved an increase in the fuel costs, it seems to me that with fuel rising as fast as it is, that it just makes sense to start finding ways to cut costs when it comes to fuel. I mean, our vehicles, leasing them, and fuel costs as well. Have you looked into that process, and also what vehicles can be used, electric vehicles?
That's a good question. And the good thing is that there's a lot of new electric vehicles coming out in the next couple of years. So basically, we have the Ford F-150 Lightning, which is an all-electric Ford F-150 truck. We use a lot of F-150s in our fleet. There's actually the Ford F-150 Pro is what it would be called. It's not an XLT or a Lariat model. It's your work truck. It's got vinyl seats, vinyl flooring. It's something that we would use in public works. It's something that would be used in Project W. It would be something that could be used in our traffic trucks that follow the sweepers, the vehicles that are out on the road every day. Then there's also, sedans coming out, SUVs, and they'll be coming out in the next couple of years. So the trouble we're having now is that it's just hard to get new vehicles because of the global chip shortage. But I'm hopefully in the next couple of years that'll be fixed and we'll be able to start phasing those electric vehicles in.
The reason I think we should have a conversation about this because we know how with our budget issues, I'm sure it's not a secret around here how we're facing difficulties, that we need to look at every avenue that we can save money.
Absolutely.
And cut costs. And I think we need to really seriously look at the type of vehicles that we're leasing, and if whatever is more economical, and is a certain division or something, do they have to have trucks? Can it be a sedan, or can it be something that's more economical? I mean, we need to really look at, have you had time? I know I brought this out before to look into that.
Yeah, we talked about it. Yeah, absolutely. If before usually when we go to a department and the department would either talk to me and see what kind of truck they have or what kind of sedan they need. Usually detectives will have a sedan or a truck or something different that they could, kind of hide in plain sight. But then we also have Public Works Department. We use a lot of trucks because they're also outfitted with service bodies. So there's a lot of weight involved. Same thing with the traffic control trucks and the Project W, they have to haul a lot of weight. So we do use a lot of trucks. Luckily with the lease program is when the trucks do go back and get sold, the trucks sell for a great amount of money. So we're able to get some equity back on that.
Yeah, because I'm thinking off the top of your head, can you think of like someone else, another part of the staff that they're using a truck currently right now that they don't have to use a truck, that they can use a sedan, for instance?
Absolutely.
Like, I don't know, city inspector. I don't know if they drive trucks or not. I'm just throwing that out there.
Right. It would
code enforcement officer or something.
It would have to depend. We would talk and sit down and see exactly what they need in the vehicle, what kind of type of equipment or tools that they would have in the vehicle, so we could get them the right vehicle. If they don't carry a lot of tools, maybe they can just drive around a sedan. We do have a city inspector that drives. We have little Chevy Bolts. They're all electric. I drive one myself. So that's fine for him because he doesn't have a lot of safety cones or tools that he drives within the vehicle. But if they do need to use like our traffic control trucks, they have a lot of safety cones. They weigh down the vehicle, so they would need something to haul all that equipment. So yeah, absolutely.
And kind of I don't know if this is the same subject, but how often do we buy fuel?
We buy fuel about every 5 weeks.
And in that fight with the prices of gas going up, is that also?
It is.
And how much can you store? I mean,
I could store 12,000 gallons of unleaded and 5,500 gallons of diesel.
That lasts you about 5 weeks or close to 5 weeks.
About 5 weeks, we probably burn about 7,000 gallons of unleaded.
But you can see where but we need to check and see what's more economical as far as our leasing vehicles. So, I mean, how would you recommend that we go about that?
Well, I would recommend when more options come out for, let's say I have a vehicle coming to term. When that vehicle comes up to term, I will meet with the enterprise rep and we'll look at options for getting that vehicle, whether it be electric. One of the other things we did put in, the hybrid police cars have been working great. And we've been saving fuel on that because the police cars do idle a lot. Well, with the hybrid cars, they don't idle at all. So we are saving gas on that. But yes, I'll meet with the enterprise rep. I meet with them usually twice a year. And then we go through the lease cars coming up to term and see what we can replace them with.
Because currently you have 4 electric vehicles?
Yes, we do. We have 3 Chevy Bolts and we have 1 electric WOW bus.
All right, very well. I'm just concerned about that, and we need to do everything we can in the city manager to find ways to save. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Any report or any comment or question from council member? All right, so if not, may I have a motion?
I think we have a motion. I'll second the motion.
Right, we have the motion and second to approve this item. Roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Mayor. And that motion was made by Councilmember Doe, seconded by Vice Mayor Monzo. And that is to authorize and continue the lease of city vehicles through enterprise fleet leasing in the amount of $749,000 for fiscal year 2022, 2023. Councilmember Doe,
Yes.
Councilmember Ho,
Yes.
Councilmember Nguyen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Monzo,
Yes.
Mayor Ta.
Yes,
Motion carries 5-0.
thank you. Next item, agreement with Southern California Edison to relocate their facility under SCE Tariff Rule 20B. Approve.
Second.
Right, we have the motion second to approve this item.
Thank you. That motion was made by Vice Mayor Monzo and seconded by Councilmember Nguyen. Oh, I'm sorry, made by Councilmember Doe. Thank you. And that is to increase the revenue account and economic development fund and reimburse others for fiscal year 2022 and 2023 by $322,000 for the reimbursable spectrum related work, and increase the utility underground project on Bolsa Avenue and Brookhurst Street, UUD number 7, capital project in the amount of $600,000 for the relocation work, and to approve the subject agreement with Southern California Edison for the relocation work and authorize the interim city manager to execute the contract on behalf of the city.
Before you call for approval, would you please repeat who make the motion, who seconded?
The motion was made by Councilmember Doe and seconded by Councilmember Nguyen.
Okay, roll call vote.
Thank you. Councilmember Doe,
Yes.
Councilmember Ho,
Yes.
Councilmember Nguyen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Monzo,
Yes.
and Mayor Ta.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next item, 5.4, award contract for the playground renovation project for Sigler Park.
For this item, I'd like to ask staff a few questions.
Right.
Our speaker earlier mentioned, made a mention of how large the size of this, would be the play equipments in the tune of 179,000, correct? And I know this is not coming from general fund, but can you tell me if this is there anything, do you think it's proportionate to the size of the park? Is it too small, too big? I know there's a gentleman that mentioned about the size of it earlier.
Okay, absolutely. So when we applying about 2 years ago, when we're applying for the CDBG funds, we kind of do a rough estimate. We didn't know exactly what the stakeholders or the community would like to see as far as a playground. So back in March of 2021, we have a meeting with a stakeholder, I think the youth group, the families from the FRC. So we're presenting a couple options to the group, and they have selected Miracle Playground as the playground equipment for Sigler Park. So in that area, we're trying to play with the project costs, but with the budget, with the request from the stakeholders, we put together plans. And this particular park is require more budget for it because it does have 2 different lots. One is for the regular 5 years old and older, and the other one for a tot lot. So you're going to see the cost going to be more than a regular conventional one playground at the other park. So the fund for $178,000, that's come from the park dedication funds balance. So it's absolutely not from a general fund.
Right. When, enlighten me, you mentioned that the stakeholders, do we not own the park?
Oh, no, we're involved with the communities, with the youth group, the youth community, and the FRC, who actually using the park. So we try to reach out to those group and get that input into what they want to see as far as the playground structure, what kind of feature, what kind of I would say play.
Did you do that for other parks?
We do that for every park, for
Every
every
park?
equipment coming in. Yes,
What's the acronym for FRC?
Family Resource Center.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
So you did some research. That's good to know.
Thank you.
And so you think for this particular park, I know it's a pretty big size and kind of, I think it's one of our bigger parks, isn't it?
Yes.
And as you said, it's got two parts, and so nothing too big, and not small, not too small.
We're using the same footprint of the previous playground area. We're not making wider. I think we're trying to fit in with whatever the feature, the play feature that from that particular manufacturer, and those been recommended by or requested from those stakeholders.
So how much do you have in this park dedicating fund? The fund 200, how much do you have in it?
Overall budget? That would be Aaron Bax for the finance.
Yes, our Director of Finance. Be nice to have that number from you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I believe, and this is just off the top of my head, it's over $1 million that we have, and it has to be spent on park improvements and park. It can't be used for maintenance or things like that.
Okay, so if we're spending 178, is that about the average? And I know that there was mention of Margie Rice Park. Was it about the same amount that was spent? I thought it was a lot more than that for Margie Rice Park.
I think Margie L. Rice, yes, I remember Margie L. Rice. I think the total about $417,000. But that was because I think we back in, I would say probably 3 or 4 years ago when we trying to budget for that park, I think we only budget 350. And as you know, right now everything has gone up so much in the construction. We were talking about the last couple of years, it might go up to 20 to 30%. It's not only us, the entire county, entire state of California, or actually nationwide, that they're dealing with the shortfall of any previous approved or allocated funding. And, typically the agency had to come back and ask for additional money to move forward with the projects.
So if you have about $1 million left, is that after or before we pay this one? That would be, I would assume, before you pay this one off?
That's, now that I think about it, it's more than, so I think that's after. And I know we have allocated or added some projects to be considered by council for the next year's budget. And there are some projects out of that fund. And I believe that's what's remaining after all of that.
I see. So how many parks do we have that are we doing, how do we go about choosing which parks we're going to put these in?
Sure, we do have the park master plans which identify pretty much all the parks that are in need for replacement, because we haven't done that for many, many years.
I see.
So staff also annually we do go out and inspect the safety of those parks. So we do have priorities, like, which one have the kind of the worst condition compared to the other, and we go down the list. So after this one right now, the next two are the Liberty Park and Newcastle Park.
Okay. To me, I think 471,000 is very steep. And I know the 178,000 you're asking for today is just to adjust our budget, right? Because you said everything gone up, right?
Correct.
So that's really steep. So I hope you're saving money for, I know we have to spend on park and not for anything else, but I hope we're able to kind of spread it around so that we can get all the parks, upgraded, or all of our equipment's upgraded. Are we doing that?
Correct. Beside the playground, we also do the other amenities, taking care of the other amenities.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to know I'm all for it. Thank you. I move to approve 5.4.
I have a couple of questions. Thank you, Councilmember Doe. As far as what's it called, what is the company called? Western
State Builders?
Yeah, Western State Builders. I see on here your staff report, you have the certifications and playground safety and all these other training that they've had, and they also have a list of other agencies that they've done some work in. But my question to you is, has staff physically gone out to one of these other cities and seen their work?
Typically for our evaluation of the bid, we're going to look at what requirements the contractor meet. We always call the reference of, list is when they submitted a bid and talk to the project manager, because sometimes you go to their project that it's completed, you don't know exactly what happened during the constructions. So we talk very in length with the project manager, see how the contract is doing, what kind of the workmanship they have. Are they easy to deal with? What kind of change order that they're dealing with? And are those agencies willing to hire them again? So we vetted a lot of time talking to them, checking all their references. For this particular parks project, for a playground project, staff always asks a little above and beyond. We ask and make sure that each contractor, they have to have at least 5 years of experience installing the playground equipment. And also they have to have the project manager need to be with the company at least 5 years or more. So we make sure that we have the consistency of that company. Western state builders, they have the certification directly from Miracle Playground, because those manufacturers, they vetted with the contractor and make sure those contractors do it right and safely.
I'm the type of mind that, this is just paperwork, somebody can get that certification on, there's a process to get it, but I would want to see it, put my eyes on it and physically and see it, touch it. I think sometimes if you call for a reference, I don't think you're really going to get, who's going to really give you a negative report on somebody, if they completed the task and it's there, I think it's best practice to go there and see it. I think that's something that we need to start doing.
So this is the installer. They actually install the products that we spec'd out. So they're not the one who manufacture the product. So when you see them install it, it looks great and nice, but we want to know what, during the installations, how the relationship between the contractor and the cities. Because for example, if we do the street, we can go to look at the street condition and it looks very nice, but you don't know what happened in between. Are they doing it right? Are they easy to work with? Are they very reasonable? Those are very key components we need to check.
I'm just in mind, it's I know this, 471, I know it's not it is a lot of money, but sometimes, you have the other bids, sometimes it's that, that saying you get what you pay for. I don't want to, a lot of times the lowest bidder is not always the best. I don't want to have, you can spec the product, but how does it look? How did they install it properly? What are the workmanship, the quality? Unless you see it, you don't really know. So I think that's something that we really need to start, a practice that we need to start doing, is going out there and physically seeing not just using the reference, because I think that's easy to really get, and you're really not going to see the whole true picture of that contractor. I'm just asking because there's I've seen other work in the city and other cities where that they might have got a good reference, but then when you look at the work, it's not very good. So I'm just concerned about to make sure that we get, if we're paying this kind of money, that we're going to get our money's worth. So that's my concern.
I totally agree with Vice. Are you done?
Yeah, go ahead.
Monzo, because I just want to restate what you said earlier, is that these are installers. They're installers.
Correct.
Okay, so who's buying the material? I know we're purchasing, but who's providing and vetting and choosing the material and all that? Who's doing that?
So the community, the stakeholders have selected the manufacturer of the playground, which is, we have several playground manufacturer. I think Playground Structure is one of them. Miracle Playground is another. So they like the feature that Miracle Playground has for this particular one. So when they selected the material or the manufacturer, the landscape architects have gone through and did a design for this. And we put it out the bid with here, this is the manufacturer you're gonna use, and then you're gonna provide us the labor to
Got it.
install it.
I see.
So the manufacturer always have a list of a contractor that they work with and work well, because they actually have to have the warranty after they install.
Uh-huh.
So they want to make sure that those are contractors that they certifies are doing a good job for them, because if not, then they cannot, they cannot be certified to install their own, because it's a liability issue as well.
So, okay. So the installer goes out and get the bids from the people that you have,
Select.
the stakeholders have selected with our approval, with your approval after the stakeholders selected, you would approve that, whatever it is they select, or is that up to them?
Yeah, they selected that, and we presented to them, and they good with the amount of playground equipment. So that's why when we send out the specs, we put those items down.
But you know what? We're not talking about 471,000 now. I mean, when I add up 178,645 plus, so that you're asking for a budget adjustment, now it's becoming $650,000 for this playground equivalent. That's outrageous. And then on top of that, you've got 10% contingency. So does that still?
So the total, I think the total is only 400, because I think the adjustment, we only have 340 in the CDBG funds.
So 340 plus 178?
Correct.
Not 471 plus 178?
No.
Okay, so your bottom line is 471, correct?
471, and then we would like to have 10% contingency just in case something come up.
Okay, so
It was about
why?
520.
So, okay, so they came back. Are they the lowest bidder? Is that what it is?
They are a lowest and responsive bidder.
Lowest and responsive. Now, why are you, if they're lowest bidder, how long ago did they bid? How long ago did they bid, and how come you were coming back with an adjustment?
We have a bid opening on April 20th, 2022,
Okay,
just recently.
and that's only about
A
a month
half
and
ago.
10 days ago, but you're coming back with a budget adjustment because of a price increase?
Well, no, when we bid it, it's actually more than what we had in budget for it. Because we budgeted this
Okay,
one
I
about
see,
2
I
years
got
ago, and everything
I
has
see, I
gone
got
up
it. Okay,
substantially.
okay. So they're the lowest bidder. And, okay,
If I may too.
okay, I got it.
Public Works, which this falls in that category, has a very specific requirements under state law. And those words, lowest responsible bidder.
I know.
And so there is an evaluation that is done, but we can't just arbitrarily say we don't like this one or that one. And we look at what is in the bid documents. And in the bid documents, they had 5 years requirement and certain, let's say, contracting requirements that they must have. And then we do that evaluation to determine if they're responsible. If they're determined to be responsible and they're the lowest bidder, then we go with them. And we can't reject them and go to the second bidder unless we find them irresponsible in some legitimate way, because they can challenge that determination.
So I guess
That's
you,
why we include all these requirements in the bid documents.
good. So you found these guys to be responsible. Have you used them before, Western?
No, we have not.
Oh, not at Marjorie Rice Park or other
No,
parks?
that's a different contractor.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay. Well, that's scary. So
Question,
why, how come you have to use a different contractor?
Well, because like I said, these are it's a public bid contracts.
Okay, but
They are the lowest bid.
mm,
That's why we
every
vetted.
contract you have to bid again.
We have
Every
to.
park you bid again. Okay, I see. Okay,
I don't want to take up Councilmember Doe had a question.
go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So what is the life expectancy of this particular playground? Is there any?
Typically they go about 20 years, but during that time, it depends on how much each equipment being used. So staff constantly, that's why we do inspection of those playground every year to look at the wear and tear and any unsafe feature that we have to go back and replace them.
But as far as I'm here with the city in 20 years, we haven't replaced any playground equipment at all.
And you and your team have followed all of the bidding procedure to the letter, is that correct?
Absolutely. This is also the CDBG fund, so we have to comply along with the federal fund requirements.
Okay, thank you very much. That's it.
Okay, one more question. Knowing this from what I do, this quote that you got from them, how long is it locked in for? Is it a lot of times they only
I think they're valid for 60 days.
60 days? All right. And we're still within that window?
Absolutely, correct.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
That a motion to approve?
I think I already made a motion, huh?
Right, so we have a
Second.
motion from Councilmember Ho and a second from Vice Mayor Menzo.
Yes, thank you.
Right. Roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Mayor. And that's to approve a budget adjustment from the Park Dedication Fund balance, Fund 200, to a newly created CIP project, account number 76502, 762205, Cedar Park Playground Improvements in the amount of $178,645.06, and to approve the award of contract to the lowest responsible bidder in the amount of $471,760.96 to Western State Builders, Inc., and that all other bids be rejected, and authorize a 10% contingency in the amount of $47,176.10 for potential change orders, and to authorize the interim city manager to execute the contract on behalf of the city. Councilmember Doe?
Yes.
Councilmember Ho?
Yes.
Councilmember Nguyen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Manzo?
Yes.
Mayor Ta?
Yes,
Motion carries 5-0.
thank you. Next item, 5.4, strategic plan goal number 1, achieve financial stability. Strategic plan objective, develop at least 3 to 80 ways to generate additional revenue to achieve financial stability and present result to the city council. Staff, please.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adolfo Zaida. I will be starting off what will be a joint presentation. Accompanying me is Interim Community Development Director Debbie Carita, as well as Finance Director Aaron Bax. Item 5.5, we can go to the PowerPoint. Item 5.5 is a strategic plan update. So what we're going to cover tonight in the presentation, we're going to provide you with the strategic plan background. We do this for every item pertaining to the strategic plan because it's that important of an effort. So we want to bring everybody up to speed on why we are where we are right now. The next thing we're going to focus on is, the main thing we're going to focus on is creative revenue options. And we're going to cover 5 ideas or concepts. The first is to explore the benefits of annexing unincorporated county islands within the city's sphere of influence. The second is electronic billboards. The third is business license enforcement. The fourth is a city-owned gas station concept. And the fifth is vendor kiosks in the Civic Center. And then we'll go on to discussions and provide you with an overview of next steps. As far as the strategic plan background, a strategic planning workshop took place on January 17, 2022. The purpose was to develop the city's first ever strategic plan. City council participated, city leadership, as well as members of the public. We came up with 3 three-year goals. The first was to achieve financial stability. The second was to develop and implement specific plans for Little Saigon, downtown, and the West Side. And the third was to attract and develop and retain well-qualified staff. Tonight, we're going to be focusing on the third of those goals, which is to achieve, the first of those goals, which is to achieve financial stability. The focus tonight will be, as we stated earlier, develop at least 3 creative ways to generate additional revenue to achieve financial stability and present these results to the city council, which is what we're here for tonight. At this point, I'd like to hand the presentation over to Debbie Carita.
Thank you. The first concept we're going to discuss is explore financial or other benefits of annexing the unincorporated county islands within the city's sphere of influence. And I'm going to provide a little background information on those islands and a little bit about the annexation process. There are 4 county islands, unincorporated islands within or adjacent to the city borders. Amongst the 4, they constitute about 390 acres of territory. Those islands are fully built out with residential and some commercial properties. There's approximately 2,700 dwelling units and approximately 8,800 residents within the islands. To annex the islands would require a strategic partnership between the city, the County of Orange, which is now currently providing the service to the islands, and the Orange County Local Agency Formation Commission, which is referred to as OC LAFCO or just LAFCO. Annexations to any city within Orange County is under the purview of OC LAFCO. OC LAFCO on their website has an inventory of all of the unincorporated county islands that are within Orange County, and each island description has a great deal of information and demographics about that island. According to OC LAFCO, in 2018-19, the Westminster Islands, when you combine them together, generated approximately $365,000 in sales tax and another $66,000 in property tax. If the City Council directs staff to explore this concept, an in-depth analysis of both the costs and the financial and other benefits would be conducted. Of the 4 islands, 3 are considered small islands because they are under 150 acres. And state law provides a streamlined process for small island annexations. The 4th island is over 150 acres, and so therefore annexation of that island would require a vote of the residents within that island. The next 4 slides provide maps of the islands. The first one is the smallest. It's Bolsa Pacific Island. It's located south of Bolsa and west of Beach. It's, as I said, the smallest island. It's just over 21 acres. The second is a little bit larger. It's the Mcfadden Monroe Island. It's located south of Mcfadden and west of Wilson. Monroe is one of the streets that runs through the island. This one is just under 33 acres. The third island is called the Beach Mcfadden Island. It's west of Beach and it is actually located along Beach. It has properties along Beach and it's north of Mcfadden. This island is adjacent, not contained within the city boundaries, but OC LAFCO has found it that it is within the sphere of influence of Westminster. So those 3 are the small islands that will be through the streamlined process. The 4th island is the largest island. It's the Bolsa Midway Island. It's east of Beach and actually has property along Beach and south of Hazard. This island is just under 300 acres. So that's a brief summary of the islands that for the City Council consideration of the option of exploring the financial and other benefits of annexation of some or all of the county islands. And with that, I'll turn it back to Adolfo.
I'll be moving on to the next concept, which is electronic billboards. I have a few, let's get the PowerPoint back up if it's not.
I got a quick question. Do we want to have, like if there's any questions, as go one by one, or do you want to go through the whole staff report? And then,
It's up to council. Well, there will be an opportunity at the end, but it's completely up to you. If something is on your mind, we'd be happy to take it as we go.
All right. So if you don't mind, may I have a question?
Yeah, that's
Yes, may I
good.
have a question about the process of annexing island, I know that the process can really complicated, right? So because the city have to work with the county of Orange, and I think LAFCO agency, they have to vote. So I think, is that a like long and complicated process?
I spoke to the executive officer of LAFCO this morning about what we should estimate. And I don't know if the council is aware that I worked for OC LAFCO for about 4 years. And she confirmed that it'd be about 12 to 18 months process. We'd have to apply. Certainly, as I mentioned, the 3 smaller islands have kind of a different process. But we would have to determine if we are proposing annexation of all or some of the islands. And yes, LAFCO has a process, but for the small islands, if we go through their process, OC LAFCO, it's a streamlined process, and OC LAFCO has to approve it if the council goes through the process and gets to the point where they're recommending annexation of the smaller islands. Now, the larger island has a different and more expansive process, but OC LAFCO will work with us. What we would do is first meet with them and talk to them about, what it would take, what would it be involved. And they would, of course, help us with any community outreach. They do an excellent job of conducting those types of community outreach events. And so, yes, there's a process that's a little bit different for the larger island. And we would, if council gives us direction to move forward, then we would come back with a timeline and what all would be involved after we meet with OC LAFCO at a staff level.
So who would to pay for the outreach program if our city, we want to try the process? So who would to pay that outreach?
In terms of the event, OC LAFCO wouldn't charge us for them coming to the event. We would probably set up, if it would be in a county, in a community center, things like that. We would work closely with the county and OC LAFCO in structuring that and setting that up in advance.
And what is the role of the county of Orange? So does a county of Orange have to sign any waiver or any?
We would have to negotiate with them in
Oh, I
terms
see.
of the share of the revenue
see.
and those types of things would be part of that process.
I see, I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you for answering my concerns. Thank you.
So these numbers you have here, those are the approximate numbers that you, potential revenue, correct? And that's just estimates?
That is just, I got that off the OC LAFCO website. And again, it's 2018-19 numbers, and that's what they said that the county received. That is not an estimate of what we would receive. It would be subject to negotiation, and the county does still provide some services, so they would want to have a portion of that. So that would be something that we would bring back to the council during the process of negotiation.
She would bring back more info as far
Information, yes.
if what it costs the city would bear for this process, and then the potential revenue as well.
Yes,
Right,
as
all
part
right.
of that process, that would all be discussed and presented.
All right, thank you.
There's a tax sharing agreement that we would enter into with the county, and there's meetings with them to determine, if there's, say, substantial road improvements that need to be made, that would be part of the discussion, that we would want extra money to be able to take care of those kinds of things. So there's an evaluation and a negotiation. But my understanding, and you can correct me, the county does want to, their desire is to get rid of the islands from their jurisdiction. They would prefer the city have that.
In general, it is just good government, given the scattering of the islands amongst the various cities. I know just recently this morning, they went through and approved the annexation of the island in Placentia. It's always part of their annual plan to reach out to cities that might be interested and go through the process. they would come to the council and explain the process. They're very proactive about that. This is within their goals of providing good government. And the county has participated in the ones that I've been involved in. When I was at LAFCO, it was up in La Habra. And there were, I think, about 6 or 7 islands that we did all at once.
I have a couple questions, if you don't. I know that you pulled the data out, off the website. You mentioned it.
Yes.
In 2018, 2019, the sales tax revenue generated to the county, $365,324. Why is only the 2018, 2019? Is it every year or it's just particular year?
It's the website had the information from that year. I think they update their information on a some kind of cycle, and that's the last cycle that they had for that. Now,
Okay.
that's not to say that they can't get that information more current, and that would certainly be part of the process if we were to move forward with this concept.
Help me to understand. I understand that you brought this item up so that we can try to see that we can generate some money for the city. So out of that money, do they share with it anything, or out of the 365,324, obviously they have not shared with us? And what is your vision of working with them in order to get the revenue generated for the city? What's your expectation?
It would be have to go into an analysis. That's why I'm not proposing that would be an amount that would be generated to the city. There are benefits in addition to financial benefits. Right now, most likely, oftentimes when someone from those areas calls for police services, the city of Westminster is the first to respond. So they are using some of our services, but because of mutual aid and things like that, we have to do that. That is so there's some benefit to us, as well as just making good sense in terms of government, because these people are right living in an island surrounded or right next to the city of Westminster. So there's a lot of benefits that may not be financial, and that's why we'd like to do that analysis and see, in terms of just thinking about revenues, maybe it's a revenue generator, and maybe it's a benefit to the city in other ways. So that's what we would explore, those possibilities.
Okay,
if you
I
tell us.
understand that we are exploring the possibility right now, but in your guesstimate, do you think that we have a 10%, 15%, any kind of percentage that we think that we might have, or they might share with us?
The cost sharing process, the property, they have a master tax exchange agreement, and I think it's a percentage, but I don't know the exact percentage. It's something that I would have to bring back.
Okay, thank you.
But I would think most of that tax dollars, the property tax, they would come to the city if it was incorporated. The county would just want to keep a portion that they need to continue to provide services that they're going to continue to provide.
Yeah.
And one of the significant benefits of bringing those areas in is that the city can then help to plan those areas to fit in, let's say, with Little Saigon, in how that's being planned, to try to make that all fit all the way up to Beach Boulevard, or just in other areas where we want to make sure that there's a comprehensive plan going on. I know Beach Boulevard is an issue with respect to having that whole area under city control. We might be able to better plan for how that area is developed in the future.
And in addition, in response to your question as well, if the city annexes the area, then the sales tax would come to the city, whatever sales tax.
As well as TUT and UUT, those would be applicable.
Yes, I'm sorry if I didn't answer it directly.
I'm sure there's other revenue as well, correct? I'm thinking business license, permitting for ADUs, whatever, remodels, upgrade, what, so.
As the city attorney said, yes, the planning process and all that permits would come to the city, as well as my understanding is the county does not charge a business license. So that is something that we would be going, they would be under under the city's requirements at that time.
So it's not going to be grandfather in?
That would be part of the discussion through the community outreach, that we would bring those kinds of questions back and let you know.
What about the increase of population? Does it affect the level of
That
money from federal and state?
That could.
City?
That's a
yes?
very good question. If it does put us over 100,000, there are different, grant possibilities and things like that. So that's not an immediate financial effect, but it is one that that could be in the future once we go through that process.
And we will take over the police service as well as public work and street maintenance and all that stuff. So
We would be providing the city services. So water, there are some issues with that, and that's something that we would have to explore because there are some independent small water agencies there. So that's one of those things that we would have to work with LAFCO and see what are the steps that we would have to take regarding those.
Thank you.
All right, do we have any other questions? If not, please continue.
I really like
Oh, I'm sorry.
to thank staff for these ingenious ideas. I really love these ideas for revenue. I've already spoken to a certain member of our staff about this for a couple years, and so I'm glad to see it coming. I wouldn't say coming to fruition, but at least we're discussing about it.
Yes.
So I'm very happy to see that. In terms of city-owned gas station, I mean, of everything you listed here, I think the city gas station is one that I'm the least familiar with in terms of, I'm just kind of like weighing the benefit versus the risk. And the risk would be like, once you what would be your profit? And I know that today we're not discussing like.
Yeah, council member, oh, sorry. I think we were going to go down the list.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Oh,
sorry.
where are we at right now?
That's
Number
okay.
two.
We're
Number
about
two.
we're about to jump into concept two,
Oh,
which is the
okay.
electronic billboards. And we'll move
Thank
we'll
you.
move our way through the
I'll go ahead and wait. Mhm.
Not a problem. Yeah. One of the other very exciting concepts that we have for you tonight is the concept of electronic billboards in the city. So if we can switch over to the PowerPoint. Move on to the next slide here. So we have some points I'll go through briefly. A lot of credit goes to Ryan Sauls. He's our management analyst, as well as to the office of Jones and Mayer, Christian, and Russ Hildebrand. He's our expert on billboards, so he's been helping along the way. Going through our list here, we're looking at billboards along the 22 and the 405 freeways currently do not generate revenue for the city. That's just a fact. Partnering with billboard operators could generate substantial revenue annually. Some of the contracts we're seeing in other agencies in Southern California are out to 30 years, in some cases 15 years. A recent one for 15 years is guaranteeing the city $30 million in a nearby agency. So it's a significant generator for agencies that jump on board early, and we're seeing a lot of this throughout Southern California already. Another thing that expands the idea of billboards, because it's not a new idea in the city, it's been brought up by council members, brought up by past administration, is something that we're adding to the mix here is redevelopment agency billboards. Those are expiring or are by the end of this year. We've already sent letters to all of the RDA billboard owners, letting them know that the fact that those will be expiring at the end of this calendar year. So looking at options to convert RDA billboards to electronic billboards is a possibility, and it's something that we are including as part of this concept. In addition to that, I did want to say again, surrounding cities have implemented new digital billboards in recent years to generate additional revenue. If you were to ask me how much we could expect for a billboard location, it has a lot to do with traffic, visibility, type of freeway. Freeways are classified differently. For example, the 405 freeway is classified as a regional corridor. It's prime for this type of market. The 22 is characterized as a commuter freeway, I guess not as lucrative as the 405. So we're looking at, in some cases, as much as $400,000 a year, in some cases as much as $2 million a year. And that all depends on the bargaining and the negotiations that take place between the city and the individual property owners. Some of these locations we're looking at city land, other locations is private property. So all that comes into play as part of the negotiation. And again, we're very closely with Russ Hildebrand. He's closed these deals in other cities, and we are hopeful that council could support us on this one. The next, so any questions?
Yeah, I have a
On to
quick
the next
question.
one. Yes.
Can you give me an example here in the city of an RDA billboard? So I'm not familiar with what it is.
Yeah, you know, they're very outdated. They are along the 405. We do have them. We have a very detailed map of all of those. It's not included in the presentation, but we could provide that to council. I would say a very well-known one is near the mall. There's that advertises McDonald's on a regular basis for southbound 405. Right next to where Cube Smart is, right off of Edwards. That's an example of one. That one is on private property. So negotiating with an electronic billboard company, they would be able to come in, they'd be able to negotiate an agreement with the private property owner. The city would pay nothing to take down the old one, to put in the new one. And then as part of the deal, as it gets structured, there's a percentage that would come to the city. And like I said, some of those percentages vary depending on the negotiating power of the city. We're seeing as much as a 35% take on revenue, on advertisement revenue coming to the city, and we're seeing as much as 65%. So those are and that's all part of the negotiations.
Thank you. Yeah, I like this idea.
I have not so relevant questions. Have you ever heard of a new internet service? They trying to go to different city and providing comparative internet service by asking to install antenna and all that stuff. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
We were approached by an agency. I wish Noemi was here tonight because she fielded some of that communication. We are familiar with that. In fact, I have a pending conversation with our IT manager about that. We're looking back at ideas that were presented to the city that weren't really moved forward. And under this new leadership, we're looking at everything from top to bottom. So that is something we're looking at.
I'm also aware of one in North Orange County. These are undergrounded lines in Fullerton, Placentia. I'm not sure what other cities also participated, but without cost to the city, they're undergrounding fiber optic lines to every home in the city. So there's a issue with digging up the city streets, but there was a lot of negotiation that took place in those two cities related to making sure it was deep enough and then providing the city with connections for the city hall, connecting city hall with the yard, connecting with TV cameras and other things to help the city with that, but also providing the public with greater levels of internet speed, all at no cost. But obviously tearing up the city streets in the process. So there's an impact, but there are options like that I know that are happening right now.
Yeah, this is seems like a new technology using the radio frequency. So they're looking forward to build antenna. So thank you.
If there are no further questions on 2, then I'd like to turn the presentation over to Erin Bax, our finance director, and she'll talk about 3, business license enforcement.
Okay, thank you. Good evening again. The third concept is the business license enforcement. And this item is currently already included in the contract that the city has with HDL companies. And it's a component of their contract and they call it their discovery and compliance. And this would ensure that entities subject to business license are properly registered and accurately reporting. HGL uses a business-friendly, education-focused approach. And they would go out and outreach to the different businesses that they find that are not reporting to the city or that do not have a business license in the city. Very, very early estimates, they see about 3,000. They would definitely have to look into this further, but that could generate $200,000 to $250,000 in recovery. HDL charges 35% of this. So net to the city, we could see 130,000 to 162,000 in the first year. After that, it just becomes part of the regular collection and we don't see those large amounts.
Is it common in other cities to have, that many unlicensed business operating in the city, in cities? I mean,
HDL.
if they're making their HDL it's a business for them to find these, right?
Right, and they have a lot of resources and, different databases they look at. And my understanding is that 3,000, they thought that was, I don't know if it was average, but it wasn't on the high end and it wasn't really on the low end from what I understand. But again, it was just initial review of a quick and dirty look at their databases, and that's what they.
It seems like a lot. So, all right, thank you.
If there aren't any further questions, we'll go to the next idea, which is a city-owned gas station. So this is an option for staff to, if council is interested, staff could go back and research a public-private partnership in a gas station. And this idea is based on an article about the city of Placentia, who entered into a partnership with a petroleum company to run a gas station. Now, in the city of Placentia, they own the land and they provided the land and receive a lease payment for that and a portion of the gas sales revenue. And based on the article, in the first year, they received $100,000. And since it opened in 2017, they received $400,000.
And for the city of Westminster, have you looked at any potential area that we are going to install?
We have not. We would, if council is interested, we could certainly go out and look. I don't believe we own any land where we could put this, so we'd have to search for that as well.
Questions. So we allow a gas station being built on city property and then have some contracted company to run the gas station. Is that what am I hearing? Or is that like?
That's what Placentia did, yes.
Okay.
The company came in and installed all the gasoline station. It's actually a fairly automated one. And it's across from I want to say a Sam's Club. So there's a certain amount level of traffic there and it seemed like a good location for it. So then you're getting the lease payment for leasing it to them, but also as part of the arrangement, a portion of each sale, each gallon sold, they get money from that.
I'm familiar with City of Long Beach. They have their own gas station, but they also open it up to the public, especially natural gas. The public can stop and use a credit card to fill the tank, but not the gas station though. The gasoline, it's only city vehicles. Okay, so this is not, and it's all total automatic, no attendant required. So this is a different concept than Long Beach. Okay.
Well, the idea is good, but in today's market, gas price is high. I guess you would have to this is just the concept. But, you want to also look at the cost of cleaning the contamination, like if you were to turn around and sell that, because if you were to $100,000 a year, it's not a whole lot. But, like I said, I'm not going to reject anything at this point. I mean, if there's something that we want to, if we choose to work it up, then that's something that you want to get into, is how much it costs to clean up the contamination. Because it may possibly cost you half of what you make, and then what does it come down to? You know what I mean? And I know that when in gas stations, I think every 3 or 4 years, you have to dig it up and replace the tank or whatever, the contamination or something anyway. So that's something we look into.
I would just say that I think it is very site specific. I think in that case, they already had some history of it. And those kinds of responsibilities fall upon the operator. And also cleanup becomes a responsibility of them. But yes, as the owner, the city potentially becomes on the hook for something like that. But that's why we would work with a large, well-known company, so that they would be responsible in replacing tanks and things of that nature when that requirement.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, if there are no further questions, I'll turn this back to Debbie.
Yes, our final concept was to explore the opportunity to establish vendor kiosks or push carts in the Civic Center area. We used the city of Santa Ana as a model, as they in their Civic Center have some of these kiosks. And our contact at the city of Santa Ana shared with us that the on average, they generate about $500 per vendor annually. There has been some changes in the state law that limits cities' ability to regulate street vendors. So we were currently, the Community Development Department is currently facilitating a multi-department team to develop a street vendor ordinance for council consideration later on in this year. And if the city council gives direction to explore this concept, then we could include that analysis in that process.
Love this idea. Explore, please. I mean, I really, really like this idea. I thought about this also on and off, and I think it is because we have this beautiful sunken garden that we totally underutilize it. And I think we need to, is that the area you're talking about? Or when you say Civic Center, would that include the sunken
Include that
garden?
area,
And the whole 4.5 acres? Would that belong to the county, or could we still use it?
We would have to explore where the operations would occur, and if it's in the county area, then we would have to include them in the conversation, of course.
Yes, please explore it. That's my thought, and it's really a great idea.
We'd like to capture the juror market. We have jurors coming to the courthouse on a regular basis. We can count on jurors being here all the time, right? As part of their civic duty. So definitely providing an option for them to not leave the Civic Center during their break is something that's on our mind.
Very good.
So this concludes our presentation on this portion of the specific plan update, strategic plan update. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. At this point, we would like the council to provide direction and receive and file this. The vision of the city manager is that each of these items, if acknowledged or moved forward by the council, they would become independent projects that prospective staff members would then bring back once appropriate research and other findings have been made.
Yeah, I want to thank the staff for coming up with all these good ideas. And I think it's best for us to look into it. So with that, I move to receive and file.
Well, I would like to motion to for the staff to proceed with these ideas and bring us back, the needed information. I think these are all good ideas, and I think I want to thank staff for being, proactive and thinking of these different ideas of generating revenue. So thank you for that, and I would like to see us proceed with that. So my motion is to give direction to staff to continue with the research.
I can
bring it
go
back.
along with that. So I withdraw my motion and second that idea.
So
Are you
as-
looking for us to prioritize which ideas we'd like first, or are you going to explore them all?
Well, so that would be helpful if there was a priority, because some of these items like annexation, for
I can just
example, will
imagine.
take considerable, time to get to the end game. So prioritizing it would help.
Yeah, so may I ask staff that which item that would be able to achieve in a short period of time, rather than, we have to go through a complicated process.
So I would say that based on the items that you have, so currently the HDL item would be the fastest and the one that we can move forward without, because it's a service that's already part of the contract. We can certainly move forward with that first. And then the vendor carts or the kiosks, that's part of a larger, thing that we're doing. So I would probably say that would be the second item, because we're already, we're close to the finish line on presenting something to council regarding what process we would be looking at for regulating these types of
Basically, the first one.
Business license.
business license.
Yeah, the business license. Okay.
Second would be the vendor. I would probably say the vendor carts.
Vendor card.
What about, where would you put billboards in that conversation?
So in talking to, in the research that's been performed to date on billboards, one of the things that complicates things a little bit on the 405 is the 405 construction project. That's scheduled to be, quote unquote, completed within the next 2 years, but with these mega projects, sometimes they tend to linger. What we're seeing is the possibility, once we get the green light from Caltrans and property owners and move forward with it, it could be up to a 2-year process before we start to see billboard.
Right.
I would say that some of these are kind of opportunity driven. So I think the biggest bang for the buck is going to be your billboards and, potentially a gas station or the annexations, but to just give staff direction to go forward with those, to start those processes so they can start keeping their eyes open for opportunities and bring it forward, I would think.
So all the project would involve cost, right? Like expenditure. So from our general fund, am I correct?
So the business license one would not create any additional
Good.
cost to us, because it's already a service that's provided. We're just not capitalizing on that. So that's just a direction to move forward. So that's something we'll just tell HDL we're going to do. Won't cost us anything. With the vendors, with the push cart, obviously we're just, staff time and attorney time to develop, an ordinance. But again, that's just part of managing.
Yes.
Yeah, it's part of,
Yeah.
it's part of doing business. So it's part of the
All right.
management of it. So that's a low cost relatively to
Got it.
manage the funds that we are not capturing currently with all of these vendors that are out on the sidewalk selling
I think
tacos.
that's
right?
fair. Yeah.
So the annexation one, that one.
That's a long process.
That is just a long process. So I would say that even if it's not, it's not something that'll capture immediate funds per se or immediate benefits, but I definitely believe that it's a conversation that we need to start having because it's a 12 to 18 month process. And of course, with Debbie still here with us, who has considerable experience directly with dealing with LAFCO, it's something that we can certainly benefit from her
Who
expertise.
is a representative of LAFCO in our area?
A few years ago, well, you probably, do you know off the top of your head? A few years ago, the mayor of Fountain Valley was a part of that.
Exactly. She was on there Brothers,
Brothers.
Carol Brothers.
Councilmember Brothers.
Okay, Mayor Brothers.
I'm not sure who's
Okay.
on it right now, but I
Yes.
can definitely get
So
you.
I think
Jim
that we need to
Pfister,
talk with the person.
Jim Pfister is the vice president
Yes.
and what's his name?
Doug Davert
Yes,
is
is the president, the chairman right now. Yeah.
But there are city members as well. The board includes city members, special district members, and the Orange County representatives as supervisors and one public member.
So how many members on LabCo agency and how many of them that we need to talk to?
We'll talk to the staff and
Oh,
that'll
talk to the
get it
staff
started.
only?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay. All right, so that's good. So we have a motion and a second.
Yeah, moving forward with everything, we will come back as staff when we
Correct.
find the appropriate time
Yes.
for, so we'll just go with that for now.
All right.
This is, I really like the new leadership and the new way of innovative thinking that different from the past, where traditionally the city council are the one who put items on the agenda, figured out a way to doing things instead of allow city employees and staff leadership putting the city to do all this stuff because they know the city best. Most city council usually have no clue. Excuse me, but it's just the truth. So thank you very much. I greatly appreciate that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. Vote, please.
Thank you, Mayor. And that motion was made by Vice Mayor Monzo, seconded by Councilmember Nguyen to proceed with these concepts and based on the priorities that were just described and bring back to the council at a future date. Councilmember Doe,
Yes.
Councilmember Ho,
Yes.
Councilmember Nguyen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Monzo,
Yes.
Mayor Tong,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0.
Next item, 506. Achieve financial stability. Present to City Council idea for improving traffic and parking condition in Little Saigon. Wow, this is a really important issue.
It is a very important, very tough one for me, but I'm happy to be here before you to present on another strategic plan update. Steve is available to answer some questions towards the end of the presentation as we get into the urban design aspect of it. If we could go to the PowerPoint, please. Good evening, Mayor, council members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adolfo Zaida, Interim Assistant City Manager. Tonight, we're going to go ahead and cover a few things. The first is we're going to provide a strategic plan background. We do this on each of these updates because it's important to communicate that to the public. The next three are kind of lumped together. They might look like they're very random and not related to one another, but they're actually very much related to one another as it pertains to what we're trying to accomplish with this particular item. Number two being a general plan vision. Number three, specific plans prioritized. Number four, the development of a specific plan. And then five, strategic plan next steps. As part of the next item, which is strategic plan background. As a reminder to the public, the city is in the process of developing its first ever strategic plan. The first workshop was held on the 17th of January, and it included city council leadership, city leadership, as well as members of the public. We're familiar with the three goals that were identified in the workshop: achieving financial stability, developing and implementing specific plans for Little Saigon, downtown, and the west side. That's what we're discussing tonight on this particular item. Then attract and develop and retain well-qualified staff. So tonight we're going to focus, this item focuses on goal number one, which is to achieve financial stability. The strategic plan objective two is what we're here to discuss. And we are presenting to the city council ideas for improving traffic and parking conditions in Little Saigon. So we're going to talk about, sorry, I think we're on the wrong one. Go back, Steve. Launch the other one, Steve, the other presentation. Sorry about that. We launched the wrong slideshow. Yeah. So here we're here tonight to discuss goal 1, which is achieve financial stability. The strategic plan objective 2, to present to the city council ideas for improving traffic and parking conditions in Little Saigon, as we stated earlier. We're going to focus a little bit on the general plan vision for Little Saigon. This is right out of the general plan. We spent a lot of money on the general plan and got a lot of participation from the public. Out of the general plan, it clearly states that we envision Little Saigon to be an international cultural destination. We expect Bolsa Avenue corridor as a mixed-use district. We want to achieve a walkable area, and we want to implement distinctive and unique urban design. Right. So this is right out of the general plan. District 5, mixed-use Little Saigon. Really the heart of Little Saigon, from Magnolia to Brookhurst. On to the next slide. We'll next talk a little bit about regional policy. We're focusing on Bolsa right now, but it's important to note that there is regional policy that kind of supersedes some of the local control that we all wish we had, but nonetheless, there is regional policy. The Orange County Master Plan of Arterial Highways exists. It is overseen by OCTA. It protects Orange County's arterial street network, really. It may be amended by local agencies with OCTA approval. The next slide shows the OCTA MPH. It's hard to see, but this is essentially the backbone of the county's transportation network. And on the next slide, we'll zoom into Westminster's part of the MPH. As you can see towards the middle of the screen there, diagonally from bottom to top right, Bolsa Avenue is in red, right? So we'll talk a little bit more about what the designation means and what the options are for the city as far as moving forward with ideas in that area. Next, we'll focus in on existing conditions for Bolsa. So this is just a typical section of Bolsa. It's a major arterial. That's what the the red line designation on the map was. Currently 6 lanes, 3 per direction. As you can see, there's a raised median there. That was a grant-funded implementation from about 19 years ago. Average daily traffic is 30,000 average daily trips. So that's about 3,000 trips per hour. So it's quite busy. The posted speed limit is 40 miles per hour, and the current configuration allows for no on-street parking. So part of the idea would be to engage in an urban redesign of the Bolsa corridor. We're not asking for council to approve lane reductions tonight. We're just simply asking you to take in all the information, considering the fact that we have a blueprint that I'll talk about next in a little bit. We have the general plan vision, and then we have an urban redesign that's consistent with some of the ideas that have come out of workshops, planning commission meetings, and other commission hearings over the years. As part of the urban redesign, you could consider, go back, Steve, go back. You could consider 4 lanes on Bolsa, 2 lanes in each direction. Introducing parking along the corridor, you could gain over 450 on-street parking spaces between Purdy and Ward. So that's a pretty significant number. I know, Councilmember Doe, you talked about this several years ago. So here we are with some ideas, opportunities. Some of the benefits. So because the roadway is built out to a 6-lane roadway, it is a regional draw. In the morning hours when the shops are closed, traffic is flying through there, getting from one end to the other. So it's a regional corridor. The vision of the general plan is for it to be a downtown district, right? So it is in conflict. The MPH with the vision of the city, there's definitely a conflict there. If you do the lane reductions to 4 lanes, we've run traffic analysis data. I had our third-party traffic consultant that we work really closely with run some numbers. So there's no impacts to the intersections during the peak hours. That's been confirmed. What this type of urban design does is it reduces the daily traffic, the regional daily traffic, right? The folks that aren't really even going to stop in Little Saigon, they're just kind of driving through because the lanes are there. So that would be reduced. So that gets redistributed to other north and south, east-west corridors that run through there. And then ultimately, we see speed reductions with these types of projects. And again, our preliminary numbers show that no impacts to traffic conditions in the area. This is an example in South County of a roadway that has very similar configuration to Bolsa, high speed, 6 lanes, median. And then here's another segment on the next slide that has a redesign, an urban redesign. So as you can see here, you have parking, you have roadway reductions, and you have that downtown environment. Now, the real powerful part of these 2 slides that I'm really happy to share with you is if you go back, this may appear like it's in 2 different parts of the county, right? It's 2 different parts of South County. It's actually one side of an intersection, MacArthur. On the west side of MacArthur, you have this configuration in front of Fashion Island. On the east side of that intersection, immediately to the east of that, you have the next configuration, which is Corona Del Mar. So a decision was made in South County that they wanted Corona Del Mar to be a downtown, and it's working. This is what it is. We've all driven it. You slow down, you get to see the shops a little better when you're not flying by at high speed. But this is a powerful urban redesign concept. Steve is here, and at the conclusion of the presentation, I'd like for him to come up and talk a little bit more about what this urban redesign of city infrastructure means for the redevelopment opportunities adjacent to this type of a corridor, because there's a connection there, and he's our land use expert, so he could talk a little bit more about that. In fact, why don't we bring Steve up right now so you can talk a little bit about that.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. In regards to what we're speaking about tonight, I would just reiterate, as Adolfo did say, that this is a powerful tool that the city has in helping to redevelop and redesign kind of an urban, walkable, pedestrian-oriented concept that's in line with the general plan's goal of enhancing the Little Saigon corridor as a destination and a tourist district. And by providing the on-street parking, we make the first step of public investment, which is providing additional parking opportunities. A second phase could also include street furniture and other things within the public realm that we have control over. And then coupled with the type of regulations that come from zoning and specific plans, now you provide the regulatory mechanism for property owners to take advantage of those public improvements, move the buildings up front, as you see in the picture in the slideshow, and you begin to transform what is now kind of an automobile-oriented type of area into much more of a walkable pedestrian area, where eventually folks who stay at any of the hotels, such as the hotel at the Bolsa Row project, will be able to walk and experience a Little Saigon in the coming years, take advantage of all the great opportunities that exist today and could exist as part of this renewal effort. And that's basically it.
For those parkings that we created, are we intent to have the meter installed, and what is the time limit? Do we have that?
Yeah, at this point, we're just looking at increasing capacity, increasing the ability to park more people in the district. The idea of introducing pay stations for the streets, that is something we've heard from council. That's something that we can definitely explore as part of this effort.
So right now it's free.
Right now, the idea really, and as I go into the presentation, you'll see a little bit more. There's some procedural steps that need to take place before we really start focusing on some of those bells and whistles, right? Because if I could go on to the next section, I think it'll answer some of your questions. Go back to that. Can we get back to the PowerPoint? Could you bring up a very good point, sir? So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Little Saigon Blueprint, because that's yet another effort, city-initiated effort supported by council, that alludes to the desire by community stakeholders to develop a downtown area. So the blueprint calls out for appointing a Saigon community outreach leader. It calls out for established management entities for Little Saigon. It calls out for rebranding and a logo for Little Saigon. To the next slide. We're talking about designing and implementing comprehensive marketing strategies, establishing a civic arts program. That's already, as you hear the civic arts program, you start to think about a downtown walkable environment. So it's already alluding to the fact that there is an urban redesign that is being called out, that is calling out for at this time. Creating Little Saigon pop-up events. Nobody wants to sit by a 6-lane road on a bench. That's just a fact, right? You want to sit and have your coffee adjacent to a buffered by a parked vehicle, a bikeway, and not necessarily adjacent to live traffic. So the idea of having pop-ups and other activities along the corridor really can't happen under the current configuration, right? The next is more of a take pride in the community, which would be a pilot soap and water improvement block program where the community has an opportunity to volunteer to keep Little Saigon clean and all that good stuff. But if we go on to the last slide of the blueprint, it really goes back to what Steve was talking about and what I presented earlier, which is out of the blueprint is support the creation of parking, right? That was clearly stated in the blueprint. And the other one is increase street furniture and landscaping on Bulls Avenue. So as we move forward, and this should answer your question, Councilmember Nguyen. If we go on to the next section, we're really talking about what is next. So implementation of the strategic plan objective is what is next. And in order to accomplish that, we talked about, first and foremost, we got to talk to the regional agency. We love local control, but unfortunately, they do control our destiny for Bolsa. It's currently a 6-lane roadway. We've had other corridors in the city reclassified. That's where we're building our active transportation corridors. They're much more open to this idea than they were when I first joined, when I first came to Orange County, maybe 17 years ago. It was a much more drawn out and almost a very negative approach. OCTA understands that the county was built in a very car-centric way. Some of the slides I presented earlier, identifying pedestrian collisions, bicycle collisions, OCTA is having to look at roadways and the way that they were designed originally by the originators of the county. So we would have to explore opportunities with OCTA first to see if it's a viable option. And then number two, going back to what Councilmember Nguyen brought up, outreach through the blueprint, right? So the blueprint, we're currently launching the next big effort, which is to implement all the things I listed in the previous slides. Outreach is very important to this council since the general plan update. I'm not here saying it's a great idea to implement reductions out there. Everything we've heard from the public is that they want to see a downtown. So additional outreach would be necessary at this point to see how the community continues to feel about it. Bringing in the proper, I guess, more focused experts in the form of urban design. I've reached out to a few urban design folks that are available to present to council. They're also available to attend community meetings where they could present options and show actual case studies. Like they showed me one of what they did in San Fernando. They took a street that was very car-centric, and now they actually closed that street once a year for a weekend. For a festival, they have coffee shops. It's a downtown vibe. They were able to do that relatively quickly. And what that's done over the years, like Steve mentioned earlier, is it's made property owners think, well, I want to make my property more inviting to the downtown. And you're starting to see a lot more redevelopment along those corridors. But again, that's highly specialized consultants that we could bring on to implement, to discuss that, as well as parking consultants that could talk about what the benefits of cost and benefits of paid parking in that district or in that area. Definitely something we can do. So again, just to conclude, the implementation would be several steps, authorizing us to reach out to OCTA to see the feasibility of this idea. And then through the outreach associated with the blueprint for us to reach out to the community and kind of get them excited about this possibility. And ultimately to drive the point home, retain the services of a traffic consultant and urban design consultant to provide council with more informed decision-making options. And that concludes my presentation.
Right, Werner, thanks for your outstanding presentation. And I think that OCTA is a main agency that our city we have to work with. And I think that we have a good partnership for years. I think that we also received funding from OCTA in the past. And so I think that that's a really good partnership. Yeah, really appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we spoke about this before, I mean, one of the ideas that was brought up was that when you spoke about branding, the logo, implement development, and also a gateway to kind of, say this is, you're in Little Saigon, that is another idea that was spoken about too. That would also come into play with your specific plan, correct?
Absolutely. If we go in the direction of really going all in and developing this downtown feel, the urban design experts that we can bring on board can help us with amenities along the corridor, whether it be street furniture, a gateway, essentially saying you're entering Little Saigon, possibly on both ends of the district. All of those ideas can be vetted as part of that effort. Absolutely.
So, like, how do you, I mean, what's the process? I mean, and maybe an estimated timeline for, I mean, I know that when we're working on the Westminster Mall, that's taken, what is that at right now? A couple of years or more than a couple of years? What do you,
The freeway hadn't started and we were already working on the mall. So it's been a while. We will be bringing the mall specific plan to you by November of this year. We're committed to doing that. October, sorry, Debbie, October of this year. I sensed her behind me there. By October, we will be bringing that specific plan to council. I mean, we are picking up on ideas that nobody's picked up on in a long time. And so we're making up a lot of ground. We're moving as quickly as we can. We have great relationships with the regional agencies. Like you stated, Mayor Ta, we do have a great relationship with OCTA. It takes time. I can, if the council would like us to pursue this strategic plan update goal, we could definitely come back, possibly be an item of interest and provide you with more of a schedule, just kind of a step one, step two. The OCTA regional process takes time. I would say it's going to be definitely more than 1 year. It requires the buy-in of neighboring cities. So we would look to our council and to our other department heads here to reach out to neighboring agencies to make sure that they understand that this is good for everybody in the district. Moving some traffic onto Hazard is not as big a deal as people think it is. And the studies will show that. The studies will show that. Like, I've never led the council down the wrong path. And a lot of the data that will come out of this, it'll be third-party data that gets vetted by OCTA, that gets shared with Garden Grove, gets shared with Fountain Valley. So there's a collaborative effort, but as a result of that, it does take time.
yeah, I think this is, I mean, I think good investment in our community, good investment for Little Saigon. We definitely want to achieve that. That's been, as you said before, what the community wants to see is a destination location, keep not only our residents here, but attract residents from neighboring cities, attract tourists coming into California, maybe to visit Disneyland, want to come to Little Saigon. I think it's definitely a good investment. So thank you. And I would like to see this thing moving forward.
Okay. Can you make?
I make a
Question?
motion to direct.
I think there was
sorry. Go ahead, Councilman.
We talk about this, I think in 2020 or 2019.
You were right on. You were new to the group.
Yeah.
We first
and-
talked about it, yes.
Yeah, we sit down and talk about, and you show me the Google Maps of the Little Saigon area. And we talk about getting rid of the island right in the middle, so that we can increase the lanes. And you were saying that the OCTA would not go for that at that time, but back in 2019. So now you think that they can change their mind? Because we also addressed the issue on PCH. It was a highway, and then it go through different towns.
Right.
Each town has become a downtown area. We talk about it, but at that time, that didn't seem like the OCTA were going to go for that. But what make them make you think that they're going to change their mind?
So there's two things. When we talked about when you first came on board was essentially introducing parking within the median island. And I think we talked about, I think City of Lawndale has an area as you're driving through where all of a sudden you have parking kind of in the middle. This area that is our median island is not big enough to contain the parking. And then we talked about modifying the median and allowing like curbside parking along the median. We talked to ADA experts, and some of those cities have gotten a pass because it's existing infrastructure from the 50s. But if you were to touch it today, you would have to address a lot of the Americans with Disabilities Act requirements that are very difficult to achieve on the median island. So that was really the difficulty in trying to build upon that proposal that we talked about. Since then, we have seen our own lane reductions approved by OCTA. We're seeing lane reductions approved in various parts of the county.
Change.
They've actually streamlined their process significantly. It used to be a almost like update your general plan and bring us a proposal. It was a very comprehensive study, and now it's a lot more customized to fit the need of the particular inquiry. So they're much more open to it, and that's directly from the OCTA Board of Directors policies that have changed in recent years.
That's awesome. What is the possibility to just remove that island? And I understand the concept of having that island is to reduce traffic accident, collision. But instead of a big island, and then we have to pay for maintain and watering all the vegetation on right in the middle of the street. Can we reduce this and build like a artificial fence or a barrier or something that we can increase the square footage of the roadway so that we can have curbside parking and all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean the investment to put in the median was grant funded. We would have to pay for any removal of the median, and really the median removal would not allow us to put in the parking. The parking is achievable with the median there. That's important to know.
No, I understand. That's not what I meant. I meant we will move the lane toward the center, since we have removed the island and we put some kind of barrier to make sure that traffic will not make left or right turn. But that will increase the square footage of the roadway. We use the curbside parking.
If we were to,
you understand what
I understand what you're saying. If we were to narrow the median, we gain more roadway, but we have the roadway we need without modifying the median. Essentially, by eliminating the outer gutter lane or the curb lane, we would be implementing parking as well as possibly a class 2 bikeway along that. So modifying the median is not something we would recommend due to the fiscal impact. Eliminating the median and not having one, I know you're not proposing that, but ever since we put in this particular median, we did a before and after study, and traffic collisions out there have gone down. I mean, I forget the percent.
Oh, I believe
over 50% reduction. So we can achieve the goal of the downtown without touching the median at this point. Yeah.
But if we have to remove it, do we have to pay back the grant?
We don't have to pay back the grant, but it's a substantial cost to remove and restore at this point.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's a great presentation. Appreciate it.
I mean, I like that I should have sent you these earlier, but I was trying to come up with my own design. I think it came pretty good. I mean, I kind of see more accomplishing the walkable, getting the pedestrian friendly streets, but I also see not only creating parking, but also bringing in greenery. You can have bringing in trees in between. We'll be creating new sidewalk walkable areas with benches and just an atmosphere that's you want to be there, and you want to sit down and you want to enjoy the scene. You want to enjoy, the new, maybe a potential new restaurant or new coffee shop, and that's what I see. I see more potential in leaving in something where you're talking about the median, and then creating just two lanes in each way and bringing in the sidewalk, having furniture there. It's a lot of potential there.
There definitely is. I mean, there's like curb extensions or
Curb extensions, yeah.
those in, I think you see those in Cypress along Orange Thorpe. So curb extensions are a big asset. Street furniture. once you build the program and you have consensus and we could write a grant, you could get like property line to property line improvements. I've seen that happen in parts of LA. You just have to have a narrative and a vision. And again, unfortunately, it does take time to get there, but we're on the right track to being able to gain grant funds for lighting, for introduction of street furniture, all the things that were being identified in other studies through different grant agencies. Absolutely.
Thank you. Again, I would to make a motion to move this forward and have staff continue with the research to bring this to fruition.
Second. All right, we have the motion second on the floor. Vote, please.
Thank you. And that motion was made by Vice Mayor Manzo, seconded by Councilmember Doe to move forward with this and staff to continue the research and bring back to the City Council. Councilmember Doe?
Yes.
Councilmember Ho? Councilmember Nguyen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Manzo?
Yes.
Mayor Tong?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0, Mayor.
All right, item 5.7. Develop and implement a specific plan for Little Saigon, Downtown District, and West Side. Present to City Council for action staff. Recommendation for specific plan development.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Ladies and gentlemen, my apologies for the previous mix-up with the presentation. It's labeled improperly. So we are back on track and we're here to present the final strategic plan update for the evening. Let's go to the PowerPoint on this. Talked a little bit about the presentation goals for this evening. We've heard and probably enough about the strategic plan background. So I'll pass over that slide in a little bit. The general plan vision is important on this item as well. Specific plans prioritized. You guys helped us prioritize that not too long ago. And here we're really here to talk about the development of a specific plan, the next specific plan for the city once the mall is delivered later this year. So we'll start off with the strategic plan background. We discussed this earlier. We're very excited about it. It's really put staff on track to bring items to council and not have items linger like maybe they have in years past, but really to put them on a schedule, prioritize them and move them forward. I think you're seeing that with all the work that we've done over the last 6 months. Go ahead and skip to slide 60. Here we are. Here we go. So tonight we're here to talk about strategic plan goal 2, objectives. This is what we've brought to you already. In February of 2022 through an item of interest. We verified consistency of our specific plan for the Little Saigon, downtown districts, and the west side. We wanted to make sure that they were consistent with the general plan. So we were able to provide you with that and we verified that accordingly. On April 13th, we came before council. We took these mixed use districts. We re-envisioned them at the staff level. We brought them to council and council helped us create a priority list of specific plans. So now we know what the council would like to see and in what order. Moving on to the next slide. Tonight, we're here to present to the City Council for action staff recommendations for developing the next specific plan. Going back to the general plan vision, due to the good work that we did in 2016, we identified mixed use zones in the city. And we want to remind the council that specific plans are a very effective tool for creating mixed use standards. Here's the land use map of the city. On the next slide. This is right out of the general plan. And within this, in the general plan, it's located on our website as well. You can see the mixed use districts in the city. On the next slide, we've highlighted them for you. So we're going to be focusing a lot today. Go back, Steve. We're going to be focusing a lot today on District 2. So here's the priority of specific plans. Go back to the list, Steve. It's okay. Hit the arrow. There we go. So here are the districts that were re-envisioned by staff not too long ago and brought to council. This is the approved priority list that you approved back in April. And today we're going to focus on District 2, which we're calling a Downtown East. At this point, I'll turn it over to Steve as our planning manager. He's the land use expert for the city, and he can walk us through some of the specifics about this specific plan concept that we've labeled District 2, Mixed Use Downtown East.
Thank you, Adolfo. And this is an area of the city. If we go to the next slide, this is an area of the city that's part of the original colony of Westminster, founded in 1871. It really is the part of the city with many of the oldest structures, but it's also the part of the city where we think there's the most opportunity for an actual traditional downtown as envisioned by the general plan, based on just the nature of the land use and the substantial and tremendous investment that the city has already made in this district. For example, this area encompasses about 41 acres. And the lots on the south side, as you can see from the map, are substantially deeper than the lots on the north side. If we can go to the next slide, you will see a couple of projects one has already been completed. That's a project at the top, the Crossings project. The city has invested $5 million of its state allocated housing money for this project. It's really our first mixed-use project on the south side of Westminster Boulevard in the district. And across the street is a project that has not been constructed, but has been approved. And this is a very walkable downtown type of office building that allows for retail on the first floor. And then, of course, just not far from the project on the previous slide, we have the Mendez Park. And as I indicated earlier, the top picture is a picture of one of the older structures in this district, which goes back to the early part of the 20th century. So for all these reasons, with all the facts that we've provided so much of the city's resources in helping to develop this area historically and the economic value that comes out of it, we believe that this is the area where we can get the most opportunity to create this traditional downtown. And I'll turn it back now over to Adolfo.
Thank you, Steve. Picking up for
Adolfo,
Steve.
can you go back to that one slide? So what was that? The story behind that home on, was that Olive Street? Yeah. Mm. So, yeah, so that home is just, you were just pointing out the history of that property, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Nothing that you see there as far as any future potential there?
If this is the house, if this is the former
Yeah,
parsonage house, there is.
Oh, okay. That's why you were pointing it out? Okay, thank you.
So picking up where Steve left off, focusing now on the development of the specific plan. I did want to walk the council through the process, right? So there's always a process to this. Go back to the slides, please. So there is in order to move forward with the specific plan concept that is prioritized as one, and we are recommending to move forward at this point with one of those specific plans listed on the priority list. There is a level of fatigue that can happen with the community if you outreach and kind of try to do too much at the same time. But the reality is there's a cost associated with the specific plan. And with that type of an investment, you want to make sure that the public is fully engaged in that activity and that activity alone and not necessarily distracted with a lot of other things happening in the city. So cost is definitely a factor. In order to move forward with that downtown cost concept, we would need to pursue a request for proposal process. And what that is we would invite qualified consulting firms to provide a defined scope of work, a cost estimate, and a project timeline. So city staff would work with consultants to develop an RFP for this particular effort. Moving on to another thing that is worth noting is there's quite a bit of work happening right now within the Community Development Department as it pertains to long-range strategic planning efforts. A lot of these efforts, some are private property initiated, like the first one you see here, Bolsa Row specific plan. A lot of staff time has gone into making that project a reality. And others are passed down from the state. There's no question that we can't put it off. We have to move forward with it. It is state law. And I'll go down the list of projects just to give you an idea of how busy our planners are. In addition to manning the counter and providing review and service to the public, in the background, we have different staff members working on different projects. The housing element update, we're looking at a completion of September of 2022 for that. The objective design standards is happening as well, June of 2023. Westminster Mall specific plan, sorry, Debbie, October 2022. That's what we're doing for that. The next is the zoning code update phase 1, which we've talked about with various council members over the last 6 months. We're moving forward with phase 1, which will get all the mixed use districts that we talked about earlier. We'll get those zoned accordingly. And then the rest of the city would be following up with zoning code update phase 2. And then there's the environmental justice element, safety element, and local hazards mitigation plan, which would be completed in June of 2024. So there's quite a bit of projects that are going on. And that plays a role, that plays a factor in how we go about essentially planning for this next big effort, which would be to develop the specific plan that we're discussing here tonight. So as far as delivering on the promises of the strategic plan, as far as next steps, I mentioned earlier, we would be completing the zoning by June of 2023. We're not going to wait until June of 2023 to start working on an RFP. We're going to start working on an RFP in February of 2023, so that when the zoning is done in June, we can come to council for an allocation of funds to move forward with selecting a consultant for this specific plan. The release of the RFP would be ready to go on June of 2023, and we would award the specific plan contract to the most qualified consultant by the summer of 2023. So I seem to be the bearer of bad news as to how quickly we can get started on things, but there is a process, and this is a very aggressive approach. As you can see, some of these goals are overlapping as we try to move forward to deliver the vision that was outlined in this strategic plan for developing and delivering a specific plan to council.
All right, I think that's a really good schedule. I think that I want to thank Adolfo and all of his staff for coming up with really good presentation with all the time frame. I think that's important, so we know what's going on and we know that how long it takes for the process if we want to achieve our goal. So it will take some time. Will take some time.
So the direction you're needing for us, so in your recommendation for the specific plan, which one we said you identified, you're calling it District 2 West?
We could go back to the list. I could read it for you right off the list.
Yeah, so you identified that one as.
We are recommending, based on the council's previous recommendation for prioritizing the districts, we are recommending moving forward with the top ranked specific plan, which we are calling District 2, Mixed Use Downtown East. When we were looking at the mixed use districts in the city, we identified that the downtown that was identified in the general plan was a little bit too large of a first step for this side of town. And for the reasons that Steve explained, we feel that the downtown district from Golden West to Hoover is a very good opportunity for us to move forward with the next specific plan once the mall is completed.
I like this, and I think, again, this is an investment in the future of our community. And I would like to see this moving forward. So I would motion to move forward with that.
Second it.
All right, so we have the motion and second on the floor to approve this item. Roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Mayor. And that motion was made by Vice Mayor Monzo, seconded by Councilmember Nguyen to move forward with this. Councilmember Doe?
Yes.
Councilmember Ho?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Nguyen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Monzo?
Yes.
Mayor Cha?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0, Mayor.
Thank you. Next item, 5.A, appointment of city manager and approval of employment agreement.
Motion to approve.
Second? All right, we have motion and second. please.
Before we do that, though, just legally speaking, I have a couple
Okay.
just brief statements
All
that
right.
I have to
Okay.
include. Anytime you have executive management, you need to make a verbal statement before the motion is made. So let me just say that on September 13th, the council appointed Christine Corden as the acting city manager. September 22nd, she was made the interim city manager. And on May 25th, 2022, the council unanimously agreed to appoint her to the position of city manager. We prepared a contract, which is on the agenda. The term of the contract would begin June 8th, 2022. It runs until terminated by the council or by Ms. Corden. The employment is at will, which is standard for these kinds of agreements, but there is a severance of 26 weeks unless it's a for cause termination. There is no termination within 90 days before or after an election, again, which is typical for this kind of an agreement. Ms. Corden would be paid at the rate of $240,890 annually. That's $20,074 monthly. This that amount equates to 5% above the total base pay for the police chief, which again was typical that we maintain that differential of 5%. So if there are increases to the police chief, that could affect the city manager's contract automatically. And then the agreement also provides for an auto allowance of $300 a month. That helps to offset her additional driving duties that are involved with that position. And then all her other benefits would be the same as she currently receives. They're in accordance with the terms of the resolution for executive employees of the city. But again, that's what she's already is receiving. With that, for your consideration, and the contract is attached.
All right, we have a motion and second on the floor.
I just want to congratulate Christine. I mean, just first time in our city, we have such a qualified leadership that thank you. Thank you, Terry. That unanimously approved 5-0 by the city council, and you have so much fan support out there. It's not even funny. It's just amazing that we have this kind of leadership that take the city to a different level. We set check and balance to protect the city employees. And, you know, I listened to all the agenda item that we have today. It's nothing except moving the city forward to the right, to the next level. So thank you very much. Thank you for stepping up to the plate and accept the challenge. Thank you for putting your name on the hat. Thank you for everything you've done since, I know you in 2019, 2018. So thank you very much. Congratulations.
All right, so we good? Motion, second floor, roll call vote.
Thank you, Mayor. The motion was made by Vice Mayor Monzo, seconded by Mayor Ta. And that is to approve the employment agreement between Christine Corden and the City of Westminster. Councilmember Doe?
Yes.
Councilmember Ho?
Yes.
Councilmember Nguyen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Monzo?
Yes.
Mayor Ta?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Congratulations.
All right, next we have common facility council agency member, including AB 1234 report when required. Who would like to go first?
I just want to thank you, staff, for spending a lot of effort to come up with all those plans for the city. I'm looking forward to work with you all to develop the plan and so moving the city forward. I also want to apologize to the WPD that I didn't have a chance to attend the memorial event last week. I was under the weather and I couldn't attend. I don't want to bring, bad things to. So that's the reason why I didn't attend it. So sorry about that. but we'll attend the next one.
Yeah, there will be another event, I think on Friday morning. So you have opportunity to make it up, but you need to run with a police officer and I will be there to run, right? I will be there to run with the chief. So more than welcome to be there and to run with me, yes.
I can, but make sure you have an ambulance, escort me.
I mean, like,
we should all go.
when I look at the email, I mean, like before the event, I look at the email, I didn't realize that if I participate, I have to run up to 5 miles, but I accept the challenge. So I will try my best to run up to 5 miles. Okay.
They have paramedics trailing to group it up pretty quick.
All right.
Well, thank you. So I just want to thank staff for all your hard work and being so proactive and coming up with those great ideas. I think it's a good team effort. I also want to thank our Westminster Police Department for continuing to putting together the memorial event. I think it's important, important to think about our fallen officers. Lieutenant Ron Weber, Officer Stephen Phillips, and Sergeant Marcus Frank. I think it's important to continue to speak of them and remember them, because that's the way you keep their spirit alive. I firmly believe that, you just got to keep telling the stories about them, keep remembering the good things that they did, what they contributed to our community, to the Westminster PD, to their families, to keep their spirit alive and keep them alive. I don't think they've gone out, but they're still here. As long as we speak of them, they're still here. So thank you, Westminster PD, to continue to do the memorial for them. So thanks for that. For me, again, thank you, staff. Thank you, council, for all your hard work as well. Thank you.
As for me, I believe I signed up to run. Please, staff, remind me, is that coming up? Is that tomorrow? Friday, okay. I'm gonna do my best. I didn't realize it's 5 miles. But I think I'm in my best shape. So I'm gonna do my best. So yes, paramedic standby, for sure. But I'm very much in support of our PD. I think in the last few meetings, I really am very pleased to see that we're all working together. Tonight, I'm seeing some of the ideas that are now on paper, agendized, and I've also discussed with some of our internal staff about these ideas, and so I'm very glad that we're moving ahead with them. And so I'd really want to give the credit to our staff for the hard work that you've put out there, and also taking the lead on coming up with revenue, as I had really urged everybody to do, including myself. So I'm very happy about that. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right.
Well, again, congratulations, Christine, and congratulations, Mayor Chita, for making to the primary. It's just working for full time, so it's kind of tough to attend all this city events. So unfortunately, I have to drive out of town on Friday early in the morning, so I will miss that. So otherwise, I'll put on my pair of shoes and try to do half a mile or something. Try to keep up with the chief, is he's not human. So, but anyways, I really enjoyed the last few meetings where we actually sit down, worked, and try to get things accomplished. And that is a relief, and it's a huge difference. It's time to build a city. It's time to, now we have a foundation. We have new leadership in the city. We have everyone on board and supported by the new leadership. And it's just exciting to start getting together and implement ideas and bring the city to the next level. So there's hope. So whatever it is, we continue to do not give up hopes. We will get through this. So thank you very much.
All right. I think there's a few good news for our city. Our meeting we end before midnight, and we all work together to move city forward. We have a good staff. I want to thank member from the community for staying into the end. Really appreciate that. Really appreciate all the ideas that you have. I want to thank our police officer, and I try my best on this Friday. I hope that I would I would be able to survive until the end for 5 miles. I haven't done that for a long time, but let's see what happens. I try my best. And with that, I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Oh, we have the special meeting study meeting on Monday, June 20th, 2022 at 8 a.m. Via Zoom. And the next regular meeting will be on Wednesday, June 22nd, 2022 at 7 p.m.
And so Mayor, also, we have our budget study session, our joint study. It's not listed on here, but we have our budget study session this coming Monday.
Oh, this coming Monday, okay.
So we have many meetings this month. So we have a
Oh, it's
study.
not on agenda.
It wasn't listed on here because it
Okay.
was determined, the date was
Right,
determined
okay,
after.
okay.
So we are having a joint budget study session with the Measure SS Oversight Committee on Monday at 3 p.m.
But it's not in person.
It is in person.
It's in.
It is here in person.
Okay,
yes.
in person.
It is
okay.
in person. The one for the strategic plan,
Okay.
because of the nature of it, that one is Zoom only, but it is open to the public as well.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Did you say it's with the SS Measure Oversight Committee?
Yes.
Really?
Because that was that was the one where there was discussion about having an advisory committee, but instead we already have a committee. So
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Right. Okay, so with that, I adjourn the meeting. Thank you.